Chapter 1261. Captain, his father is not a good person. If we blatantly blackmail him, we will definitely die a horrible death. The crew member looked back at the captain. Prague suddenly seized the opportunity. She picked up the iron bar beside her and heavily smashed the crew member's wrist that was holding the gun. Prague immediately picked up the gun. Don't move. Pete's face was full of disbelief. He didn't know Prague had such a decisive side. The surrounding crew members saw Prague grab the gun and were somewhat shocked. But they weren't worried. After all, Prague was just a woman. Miss Prague, you better understand your situation. The captain looked at Prague, his tone somewhat disdainful. To be honest, Prague was very calm at the moment, perhaps because she had experienced more severe and dangerous events. So at this moment, Prague wasn't that afraid. Suddenly, Prague turned the gun and pointed at the captain. Bang! Prague fired, and the captain fell to the ground. But the gun wasn't fatal. The other crew members immediately wanted to pull out their guns. But at this time, Prague fired several shots. These shots made the crew members dumbfounded. They all covered their heads and fled. Prague turned and ran into the cabin, and Pete quickly followed him. He looked at Prague with shock in his eyes. Is this the girl in my life? Just then, another crewman came out of a hatch on the walkway. He heard the noise outside and came out to see what was going on. Just in time to see Prague, he didn't have time to react. Prague had already raised the gun to the crew member's forehead. Pete, take his gun away. Oh. Pete quickly searched the crew member's gun. Prague single-handedly held the crew member's neck and used him as a meat shield, slowly retreating. Where's the kitchen? Prague asked. Go straight. The innermost cabin is the kitchen. At this time, the crew members outside the deck came in, but they didn't dare to shoot. They stared at Prague, Pete, and the kidnapped crew member as they entered the kitchen. As soon as Prague entered the kitchen, he immediately locked the door. This kind of closed cabin door was locked with a wrench. If one side was fastened, then the other side definitely couldn't be opened. This was because ocean-going ships like theirs often had to go to some rough seas, and many times the waves would come in from the deck. Therefore, many people often use this kind of closed cabin door to block the seawater. But now Prague was given a chance. Peter, tie him up. Peter was completely shocked by Prague's swift method. He never thought that the seemingly weak would have such a decisive response. What do we do now? Don't worry. They should be the ones thinking about what to do now. Prague said calmly, food and water are all here, and the nearest island or coastline is at least 3 days away. We have enough time to delay them, and 3 days is enough for them to die of thirst at sea. At this time, the crew members who were being held hostage also reacted. He also looked at Prague in surprise. He did not expect Prague to have such a side to him. You seem to have forgotten about the bison, the crew member said in a calm tone. Isn't the bison broken? Peter asked in surprise. Rick must have lied to us, Prague said. Prague finally reacted. They most likely have some ulterior motives, but they accepted your money, so they plan to bring us to Seagull and send us away. But your attitude and your threat to sever your father's cooperation with them made Rick unhappy, so he wanted to kill you. To put it bluntly, all of this could have been avoided. It was all Peter's stupid words and attitude that caused this disaster. Peter's face turned red. He retorted, It's all because you wanted to go out to sea. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in danger. There are electric welded walls outside, so even if we don't inform the bison, this door won't last long, the crew member said. So I advise you to surrender as soon as possible. A stalemate won't do you any good. I don't think so. After I held you hostage just now, those people were obviously very nervous. Who are you on this ship? My name is Pammy. I'm not anyone on this ship. I'm just a collaborator with them. The crew member shrugged. Collaborator from what side? You won't believe me even if I tell you, Pammy said calmly. How do you know I won't believe you if you don't tell me? Okay, I'm a deep-sea priest. I can help the exploration ship avoid dangerous waters, Pammy said. Nonsense. What deep-sea priest? You're just a liar. Peter didn't believe Pammy at all. See, you won't believe me even if I tell you, Pammy said calmly. She didn't care about Peter's attitude. I believe you, Prague said. Prague, he's obviously lying. He's lying to you on purpose. Prague didn't want to talk to Peter at all. If they weren't in the same boat, Prague would have shot Peter. Do you have any spells that can stop them from coming in? Prague asked. Why should I help you? You're holding me hostage now. Pammy sneered at Prague. Prague lifted Pammy coldly. At the moment, Pammy was tied up tightly and couldn't resist, even if she wanted to. Prague pressed Pammy's head on the stove and turned on the gas, but he didn't light it. The choking gas drilled into Pammy's nostrils, making it difficult for her to breathe. Don't challenge my patience, and don't think you're special, Prague said coldly as he turned off the gas. Peter felt that Prague in front of him was very unfamiliar. Was she really Prague? Pammy coughed violently. Breathing in gas was very uncomfortable. What about now? Prague looked at Pammy. My hands are tied. I can't cast spells, Pammy said. Prague narrowed her eyes at Pammy. She didn't want to let go of Pammy. Especially after knowing that he was a spiritualist, Prague was even more cautious. She was completely unfamiliar with deep-sea priests and didn't know what abilities Pammy had. Now that he was tied up, she could still threaten him with a gun. But once she let go of Pammy, she would probably be controlled by him. Just then, there was a sudden hurried knock on the closed door. Open the door. Open the door. Let me in. The voice outside didn't sound like a request or a threat. It was more like a plea for them to open the door. But of course, Prague wouldn't open the door. Suddenly, there was a scream from outside. What happened? The people outside were attacked. Chapter 1262. Prague didn't dare to open the door, because she didn't know what was happening outside. Moreover, they had only been hiding here for less than 20 minutes. How could something happen outside, so coincidentally? So, Prague was inclined to believe that the crew of the Seagull deliberately tricked her into opening the door. Pete was the kind of man who didn't have his own opinions. Since the beginning, he had been by Prague's side. Prague, what do we do now? Hi, Prague said. Do you have your phone? Yes, but there's no signal. We're far out at sea. We can only use satellite phones. Prague looked at Peter with some disdain, but she still said patiently, We'll wait for them to reach the shore. They're outside and don't even have food. They might not even make it to the shore. Then, we can completely take over the ship. Don't use the phone. Peter nodded. Prague began to wander around the kitchen. There were at least 30 people, enough water and food for 2 months. They wouldn't starve to death even if they hid here for a year. Prague took a piece of bread to replenish her energy. Peter, on the other hand, was in a trance. He had no appetite at all. Give me some too, Pammy said. Just as Pete was about to take it, Prague stopped Pete. Just give him a minimum food supply. A little bit a day. That's the only way to ensure our safety. Why? Because he's not an ordinary person. Do you really believe that he knows magic? Peter asked in return. If you don't want to die, you'd better listen to me, Prague said. Fine. Pammy looked at Prague helplessly. She had to admit that Prague's thinking was meticulous, as if she had received professional training. Miss Prague, have you received military training? No. Shouldn't ordinary people panic in a situation like this? Also, you're a woman. I've been through more terrifying situations. Compared to that situation, the people on this ship are like obedient children in kindergarten. Have you come into contact with other spiritualists before? Yes. Prague nodded. No wonder you weren't surprised when you found out about my identity. Prague? What spiritualist? Peter couldn't understand Prague and Pammy at all. Nothing. Just then, Pammy started to act up again. I need to go to the bathroom. Hold it in. I can't hold it in anymore. Then just poop it on your pants, Prague said calmly. She had no intention of helping Pammy at all. Pammy looked at Prague helplessly. He didn't expect Prague to be so cautious. I promise I won't cause any trouble. Can you untie me? No. Prague obviously didn't trust Pammy. After an hour, Pammy finally couldn't hold it in anymore. I really can't hold it in anymore. Let me go to the bathroom. Previously, it was just a test, but this time it was for real. Pete, take him to the toilet. Pete wanted to ask why it was him, but on second thought, if it wasn't him, who else could it be? Don't bring guns, Bragg said again. Why? If he wants to resist, even if he holds you hostage, he won't be able to hurt you without a weapon, let alone change the situation. But if you have a gun, and he happens to take it away, then you will put us all in danger. Pammy looked at Prague deeply. She had to admit that Prague's thinking was too meticulous. He wouldn't believe that she didn't have professional military training. After a while, Pammy came out of the toilet, tied up again. To be honest, this was the perfect hiding place. There was a toilet, food, and fresh water. Plus, the people outside couldn't come in. Actually, you don't have to be so cautious. Since you've met spiritualists before, you should know that they have different types. I'm not an offensive spiritualist, Pammy said. Plus, even if there's a gun in front of me, I can't beat you. Pammy's words were sincere. Based on Prague's previous behavior, Pammy didn't plan to resist. To be honest, if Prague went out and fought the crew on the boat now, Pammy doubted that the people on the boat could beat her. Of course, Prague didn't think so. She knew what she was capable of. In terms of intelligence, she could barely beat Pammy. But if she fought with real guns, she would probably be shot into a sieve by the crew outside in one round. The boat was parked outside Hawaii. Chen Zhao didn't dock it at the port. The boat was a medium-sized boat, so it wasn't cheap to dock at the port. It cost $100,000 to dock once and a few $1,000s a day. Chen Zhao didn't lack money, but he didn't plan to waste it either. Not long after, the yacht's radar detected a ship approaching the yacht. Hey, Chun, my boat is approaching you. It's less than 20 nautical miles away. Although they'd already agreed, Guret still reminded Chen Zhao when he got closer, in case Chen Zhao thought it was a boat with unknown intentions. Soon, Guret's boat was within sight of Chen Zhao's boat. Boss, what a big boat. The person on it must be rich. Let's do this, right? Guret's subordinates were all excited. They could tell that the boat belonged to a rich person. This was also the open sea. For the pirates, it was the best target. The owner of the boat is our partner this time, Guret said indifferently. If you don't want to die, you better give up. That person is definitely not someone you can offend. Guret's boat slowly approached the boat and gave Chen Zhao a signal. Chen Zhao waved his hand, gesturing for them to come closer. When they were close, Guret boarded the kayak and came to Chen Zhao's boat. Hey Chen, we finally meet again. Okay, can we go now? Guret nodded and turned around to signal his crew, telling them to start the boat. Chen Zhao took out some food for Guret. How far are we from Nanchi Island? It's a 4-day journey. That's really far. Chen Zhao was already prepared to spend a long time at sea. According to Guret, it would take 8 days to go back and forth. No, it should be 10 days because it took Chen Zhao a day to get here from Los Angeles. Why did you drive the boat out? It's not convenient to enter the deep sea. I'm seasick, Chen Zhao said matter-of-factly. You're seasick? What's so strange about seasick? Chapter 1263. During the break, Chen Zhao chased Guret back to his ship. Apart from Guret, no one else was allowed to board his ship. Just because Chen Zhao was working with Guret didn't mean he could accept pirates. These guys looked at his ship weirdly. Who knew if they would steal anything once they boarded his yacht? Guret's subordinates were also very unhappy with Chen Zhao's behavior. Boss, who does that guy think he is? He's looking down on us. AG, who cares about his attitude? Guret glanced at her subordinates. Just mind your own business. Guret was also unhappy with Chen Zhao's attitude, but they were working together now. She didn't want something small to cause a problem in their cooperation. Whether it was her or Chen Zhao, they both wanted money. Plus, she didn't think she could gain anything from falling out. Showing off her dignity? Changing Chen Zhao's attitude? Guret was very clear about her position. Chen Zhao needed her, and she needed Chen Zhao too. AG looked at Chen Zhao's ship, her eyes filled with greed. How much could this ship be worth? Even if it was sold as a second-hand ship, it could probably fetch tens of millions of dollars. Unfortunately, Guret didn't agree with him at all. In the next 2 days, the pirates watched as Chen Zhao enjoyed good food and wine on the ship not far away. He even jumped into the sea to play. On the other hand, there were only a few dozen of them on the broken ship. This difference in treatment made everyone very dissatisfied. Actually, Chen Zhao was already somewhat bored. It was mainly because of loneliness. Guret would occasionally come over to chat with Chen Zhao. Otherwise, he would chat with Fei Lai on the satellite phone. When they reached the deep sea, the waves started getting bigger. This showed the good performance of the ship. When the waves hit the ship would deflect them. However, if the ship encountered a 20-meter wave, it would be very dangerous. The ship couldn't withstand the impact of such a wave. Only Guret's ship could. Her ship was an ocean-going ship. In this sea, the 10-meter wave was already a threat to Chun Zhao's ship. Chun Zhao had to release his little world to protect his ship. Chun Zhao earned money by going out to sea to search for treasures. If he didn't earn any money and lost a ship, he couldn't accept it. Agu had been standing on the deck of the pirate ship for the past 2 days, staring at the yacht. Why didn't the yacht capsize? Agu had always hoped that the waves in this area could capsize the yacht. Then, the Asian would need to ask for help from their pirate ship, and they would be able to reject him and not let him board the ship. At that moment, another huge wave came crashing over. The bow of the pirate ship tilted down and passed through the waves. However, the huge waves directly drenched the people on the deck. AG wiped the seawater off his face and looked at Chun Zhao's yacht. However, to his disappointment, the waves suddenly weakened after reaching Chun Zhao's yacht. Damn it, such a big wave. Why did it weaken after walking for a few dozen meters? Agu became more and more dissatisfied. His jealousy had already twisted him. Suddenly, Agu saw a ship amidst the waves ahead. "Boss, there's a ship ahead." Adger immediately reported to Guret. "What ship?" "I don't know." Signaling. No response, and "I don't see anyone on the deck," Agar said. "Search for the nearby radio channels." "Only the Asian's yacht has a radio channel." "That ship doesn't have a radio channel." "How can it not have one?" Radios were very common. Any mid-range or long-range ship had to be equipped with radios. Even fishing boats and illegal immigration boats had radios. "Should we go closer and take a look?" Agar asked. Usually, according to the international rules, when one received a distress signal, they had to go and rescue if the conditions allowed. Such a ship stopped in this turbulent sea, and there was no radio signal. It was very likely that something had happened to the ship. Of course, they were pirates and wouldn't go and rescue people. Actually, they had saved people before. Of course, they wouldn't expose their identities. "Boss, let's go and take a look," Agar suggested. "Okay, send a signal to Mr. Chen's yacht and tell it to stop for now. We'll go and check the ship." Agar's lips curled into a subtle smile. He quickly ran to the cockpit and picked up the walkie-talkie. "Mr. Chun, there's a ship ahead. Boss Guret asked you to come with us and see who's on it." Chun Zhao also saw the ship in front of them. He was rather bored now. After some thought, he agreed to the suggestion. Chun Zhao stopped the yacht and lowered the anchor. Then he released the kayak into the sea. Guret's pirate ship also sent 5 people. They arrived on the Seagull one after the other. Agar took out a grappling hook. He threw it up and hooked it to the edge of the boat. Then he started climbing. When all 5 climbed up, Agar looked down at Chun Zhao. "Mr. Chun, do you need us to help you?" Agar looked at Chun Zhao teasingly. Chun Zhao narrowed his eyes. He could feel Agar's malicious tone. Chun Zhao pulled the grappling hook. Ignoring Agar, he climbed up himself. Seeing Chun Zhao climb up, Agar wanted to kick the grappling hook away, but it didn't budge. After reaching the deck, Chun Zhao started looking around. He was also curious why there was no one on the ship. It didn't look like a ship that had drifted for a long time. There were still traces of people on it. There should have been people on the Seagull not long ago. "Mr. Chun, you know who we are, right?" Agar stared at Chun Zhao. He planned to give Chun Zhao a show of strength here. Therefore, the people he chose were all his trusted subordinates. Chun Zhao looked around. Then he walked around Agar and walked toward the cabin. Chun Zhao completely ignored Agar. Agar's face immediately twisted. Just then, one of Agar's subordinates raised his fist and punched Chun Zhao's back. "Kid, our boss is talking to you. Didn't you hear?" Chun Zhao turned around and looked at the 5 people. Suddenly, Chun Zhao pulled out the gun that the pirate had inserted into his pants and pointed it at the pirate's chin. Bang! Agar and the others didn't expect Chun Zhao to be so decisive. They were about to attack when Chun Zhao raised the gun and pointed it at Agar's head. "Were you talking to me just now?" Agar didn't dare to move. At the same time, he opened his arms to stop his subordinates. "Mr. Chun, I just want to be friends with you. You don't have to kill one of my subordinates without saying anything, right?" Chapter 1264. Mr. Chun, Can you put the gun down? Chun Zhao smiled and put the gun down, after which he walked into the cabin. Goose signaled one of his men with the corner of his eyes, and one of his men quietly took out a gun. He was about to aim at Chun Zhao's back. Suddenly, Chun Zhao turned around and fired. A bloody mark was left on the subordinate's cheek. He was so scared that he dropped his gun. Sorry, I scared you. Chun Zhao still had that casual smile. But I hope you won't shoot me in the back next time. If it happens again, it won't just leave a mark, understand? Actually, Chun Zhao had wanted to aim at the man's head. However, Chun Zhao's shooting skills were too bad. Even at a distance of 1 meter, he could still miss. Chun Zhao glanced at Adger. If there's a next time, you can all die. Adger didn't want to move anymore. It was as if this man had eyes in the back of his head. His reflexes were most likely trained on the battlefield. It wasn't wise to fight someone like this head-on. Although Aji's heart was filled with resentment, he still suppressed it. Chun Zhao continued walking toward the cabin, but after a few steps, he felt something under his feet. Looking down, he saw something sticky on the ground. Chun Zhao squatted down and poked it with his finger. It felt like jelly. Adger and his subordinates really wanted to pull out their guns now. But thinking about Chun Zhao's reflexes, they gave up on the idea. This man wasn't easy to mess with. They had to find another opportunity. After a few more steps, Chun Zhao saw blood and claw marks on the wall. It looked like someone had struggled here. Their fingers had scratched the metal floor and left bloody marks. But there wasn't much blood. They came to the end of the corridor. Chun Zhao could feel someone's voice inside. Chun Zhao tried to turn the wheel that sealed the cabin door. It seemed to be locked. Chun Zhao pulled the wheel off and opened the metal door. Instantly, 2 guns were pointed at Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao looked into the cabin. It was the kitchen. There were 3 people inside. Chun Zhao even knew one of them. It was Prague. Prague, you dare to point a gun at me? Prague quickly put down his gun and was surprised. Mr. Chun, why are you here? I went out to play and found that there was no one on this ship, so I came up to take a look. I still want to ask you, why are you here? Prague, do you know him? Peter asked, puzzled. Put down the gun if you don't want to die. They have guns. Nobody can be trusted here, Peter said. He'll kill you, said Bragg. Just then, Agu and the others finally raised their guns. They felt that their chance had arrived. Pete raised his gun from the front, and they pointed it at Chun from the back. They didn't believe that Chun Zhao could survive in this situation. Pete didn't expect the 4 people behind Chun Zhao to raise their guns. He wasn't pointing at himself, but at Chun Zhao. Mr. Chun, who are they? Prague asked, confused. Weren't they Chun Zhao's subordinates? Why was he pointing a gun at him? They are dead people. Go to hell. Aga fired first. Chun Zhao twisted his neck. The bullet brushed past his face, and he dodged it by a hair's breadth. You shouldn't be so close, Chun Zhao said indifferently. Chun Zhao suddenly pulled out his gun and fired 3 consecutive shots at an extremely fast speed. Bang, bang, bang. 3 of Aji's subordinates died at the same time. At such a close distance, Chun Zhao wouldn't miss no matter how bad his shooting skills were. Aji's expression was somewhat stiff. Chun, Mr. Chun, I was joking with you. You're still holding your gun. You're not sincere at all. Chun Zhao smiled. Agu was conflicted. Should he shoot or put down his gun? Chun Zhao had actually dodged his bullets at such a close distance. He was already scared out of his wits. Moreover, Chun Zhao had killed 3 of his subordinates in less than a second. This scared him out of his wits. Mr. Chun, you won't kill me, right? I'm Boss Guret's right-hand man. I'm responsible for many things on the ship. Of course, I promise you that I won't kill you. Chun Zhao nodded. I'm such a good friend with Guret. I won't blame you for such a small joke. Aga didn't really believe Chun Zhao's words, but his fear of Chun Zhao forced him to put down his gun. At the moment, Aga was already regretting his actions. Why did he have to make life difficult for Chun Zhao? As expected, Chun Zhao put down his gun. Aga heaved a long sigh of relief. But just then another thought popped up in his mind. When he returned to Guret, he would definitely tell him about Chun Zhao's violent actions. Aga was the kind of person who would forget the pain after a scar healed. Peter didn't dare to raise his gun anymore. He hurriedly put it down. This man was a butcher who killed without batting an eye. In the blink of an eye, he had killed 3 people. Mr. Chun, what's the situation outside? I'm going to ask you why you're here. Where are the people on this ship? I don't know either. The people on this ship aren't good people. We were tricked onto this ship and realized that they had bad intentions towards us. So, I took this person as a hostage and hid here. Not long after, there were cries for help outside. We've been hiding here for 2 days. During this time, we didn't dare to go out. I see. Mr. Chun, can you take us back to L.A.? You can go to my ship first, but I won't go back for a few days. I have my own destination. Okay then. Pointing at Pommy, Prague said he's also a spiritualist. He says he's a deep-sea priest. So embarrassing. As a spiritualist, he's actually taken hostage by a kid. Chun Zhao glanced at Pommy. Pommy didn't retort. Chun Zhao's killing just now had also scared him. Let's go. Chun Zhao brought the 3 out of the cabin. Prague realized that everyone on the ship had really disappeared. However, they found another corpse on the deck. He was just joking with me, and I accidentally shot him, Chun Zhao said calmly. That's my ship. Great, Peter exclaimed in surprise. I can finally rest. Did I say you can go to my ship? Huh? Why not let me go? You pointed your gun at me just now. Is that reason enough? Do you know who my father is? It's none of my business. Chun Zhao snorted and turned to Prague and Pommy. Jump onto the raft. Peter's eyes were filled with anger. Chun Zhao didn't care about Peter's expression. Peter could only say, send me back to L.A., and I'll give you $10,000. Do you think I'm a beggar? Peter looked at Chun Zhao's ship. It cost at least $50 million. Chapter 1265. $2 million. Chun Zhao raised the price. Just then, Agar couldn't stand it anymore. He tried to steal business right in front of Chun Zhao. $1 million. I'm willing to send you back to L.A. Hearing Agar's price, Peter was also tempted. After all, it was a big expense to save $1 million. He's a pirate. Are you sure you want to get on his boat? Chun Zhao sneered. Peter's expression changed instantly. You're a pirate? As long as you pay, I can promise to send you back to L.A., Agar promised confidently. It was just that Peter had already been cheated once. How would he be willing to get on his boat again? Chun Zhao was fierce, but at least Prague knew him. Mr. Chun, I think I'll get on your boat. I'll pay $2 million. Smart choice. Chun Zhao patted Peter's shoulder. Go my raft. Agar watched Chun Zhao leave with the 3 in anger. The duck that was about to fall into his mouth flew away just like that. Prague glanced at Chun Zhao. Mr. Chun, I thought you'd kill that guy too. I've always kept my word. How could I go back on my word? Seeing that Agar's raft was approaching Guret's pirate boat, Chun Zhao's lips curled. Plus, who knows what's hiding under the sea? Suddenly, Agar's raft flipped. Logically speaking, as a pirate, Agar was definitely good at swimming. However, Agar was calling for help on the sea. His body was bobbing up and down. Prague looked at Chun Zhao. Aren't you going to save him? Your joke is really refreshing. Chun Zhao could not be bothered with Agar, who was crying for help on the sea. The raft passed him less than 10 meters away, but he still ignored it. Prague, Peter, and Pommy watched as Agar's body sank into the sea. The 3 all felt that Chun Zhao was cold-blooded. Returning to the boat, Chun Zhao arranged rooms for the 3. The 3 rooms on the right of the inner cabin are yours. The 3 looked around their rooms. Prague and Pommy didn't have any objections, but Peter was displeased. Why is my room so small? You have a bigger room. Because I'm the captain. I paid for it. I promised to send you back to Los Angeles, but I didn't promise to let you enjoy it. If you keep nagging, I might send your ashes back to Los Angeles. Pete didn't dare to speak, and Prague was speechless. He had already suffered a loss before, but Pete still didn't learn his lesson and dared to spout nonsense. Why don't you take a look at who the other party is? At this moment, Gulai's call came. Chun, I want you to give me an explanation. Why did you kill all my people? I also want to ask you, why is every single one of the people you sent here filled with hostility towards me? If you don't discipline them well, I don't mind disciplining them for you. If anyone shows hostility towards me again, I won't hesitate to kill them all, even if it's you. Gal was speechless. She had a bad feeling when Agar and his cronies boarded the Seagull. What happened next was just as she expected. Agar and Chun Zhao had a conflict. With Chun Zhao's personality, it wouldn't be surprising if he killed them. The two boats continued moving forward. Gal didn't continue arguing with Chun Zhao. She also knew that she was in the wrong. If she kept arguing with Chun Zhao, she would be the one at a disadvantage in the end. Mr. Chun, when are we going back to Los Angeles? Pete was unhappy with Chun Zhao, but he still suppressed his dissatisfaction. At least, he didn't want to anger Chun Zhao again. I still have something to do. I'll add another $1 million. Take me back to Los Angeles immediately. Chun Zhao glanced at Pete and ignored him. Prague and Pommy were very sensible. They also wanted to return to Los Angeles as soon as possible. But they wouldn't be like Pete, who didn't know when to stop. Also, I know you have a gun, Chun Zhao said. If you make a hole in my boat, I'll make a hole in your body. Although Peter was dissatisfied, he could only endure it at this time. Thankfully, Chun Zhao's boat was big enough. The environment and facilities were all top-notch. It was like a luxurious hotel, so the three didn't complain anymore, mainly because of Pete. Pete hid in his room and sulked. On the other hand, Chun Zhao was lying on the sun chair as boxers, enjoying the sea breeze. Just then, Pommy walked over with a glass of juice. You're a spiritualist too? Yes. Chun Zhao opened his eyes and glanced at Pommy. I heard from Prague that you're a deep-sea priest. What element exactly? I can feel the emotions of the creatures in the sea, Pommy said. From their emotions, I can analyze the danger level of the nearby sea. Then what do you think the sea we're in right now is dangerous? Safe, Pommy answered. What element are you? Strengthening, Chun Zhao said. I also know some random spells, all offensive spells. Wizards have weak magic power. If you practice so many spells, it'll spread out. I don't need someone who can be kidnapped by a college girl to teach me how to use magic, Chun Zhao said in disdain. I don't want to fight, Pommy said stubbornly. Do you really think I can't beat her? He was also someone who cared about his reputation. This was the first time Chun Zhao had mocked him. He was afraid of Chun Zhao's methods and didn't dare talk back. Now, he basically understood Chun Zhao, so he wasn't as afraid of Chun Zhao as before. Oh, then show me. I'm not a monkey. Unless it's really necessary, I won't show it to anyone. You should listen to me on my boat. If you don't show me, I'll throw you into the sea to feed the sharks. Fine. Actually, my spell is Deep Sea Shark. I can summon a school of sharks, so you can't feel the effect on the boat. Summon a school of sharks? Show me. Pommy looked unwilling. This spell uses a lot of magic power. Stop talking and show me. Can I summon one? Fine. Pommy started casting the spell, but after a long time, Chun Zhao still didn't see any sharks. Can you do it or not? There are no sharks nearby. Let's wait, Pommy said. Pommy said, my spell can only summon sharks within a 30-kilometer radius. I can't summon all the sharks in the entire sea. Oh, I got it. Pommy felt the presence of a shark, but as soon as he spoke, his connection with the shark was cut off. What happened? Why did the shark suddenly die? Chapter 1266. How come I don't see the shark? Chun Zhao asked despite knowing the answer. Feeling Chun Zhao's gaze, Pommy was speechless too. He could sense it and make a short connection to order the shark, but he didn't know what the shark was thinking. In the end, he could only attribute it to his bad luck. It was a shark that was about to die. Pommy felt very embarrassed. So, he decided to contact another shark to at least earn his face back. Fortunately, in less than 10 minutes, another shark appeared in the nearby waters. Judging from the strength of his senses, it was a great white shark. Great white sharks were the greatest threat to humans out of all shark species. At least in the sea, they were the greatest threat. Bull sharks, on the other hand, had the most injuries. Bull sharks could adapt to freshwater and would become more aggressive in freshwater, especially in the Ganges River region of India. This was especially true in the Ganges River basin of India. Because of the Indian custom of throwing corpses into the Ganges River, bull sharks living in the Ganges River basin were used to eating human flesh. Moreover, Indian religions believe that bull sharks are a holy symbol, which leads to a large number of bull shark attacks in India every year. Pommy couldn't see the great white shark he'd contacted. However, from the size of the great white shark spirit, he could still sense the size of the great white shark based on his experience. The great white shark was very strong and had already reached adulthood. It was the undisputed king of the sea. Pommy controlled the great white shark to approach. Mr. Chun, you can look at the sea on the left of the deck, but don't be scared. With a faint smile, Chun Zhao looked at Pommy. I'm looking forward to it. Pommy could feel that the great white shark was less than 100 meters away from the boat. It's coming. Suddenly, Pommy lost contact with the great white shark. Pommy was stunned. Why did it disappear again? Where was the great white shark? Completely disappeared? What happened? How could this be? Where did the great white shark go? Great white sharks usually lived in shallow waters more than 200 meters deep. There shouldn't be anything that could threaten them, right? But why did the great white shark disappear? Where did it go? Chun Zhao smiled at Pommy. Where's the shark? Accident. That shark hit the bottom of our boat and fainted. She didn't believe it. She felt that she had to show Chun Zhao her abilities today. However, half an hour later, that shark is constipated and can't leave the water. An hour later, Pommy succeeded. A small shark with a body length of no more than 60 centimeters. Impressive. Chun Zhao looked at Pommy with admiration and then turned to leave with a smile. Pommy felt like she had lost all her dignity. How embarrassing. After working for more than an hour, only a young shark was summoned. There was nothing more humiliating than this. Although he could not return to Los Angeles immediately, Peter gradually relaxed. Although he was still dissatisfied with Chun Zhao, the only thing that made Pete unhappy was Prague's attitude. Prague was now looking at Peter with disdain. Pete originally wanted to enter Prague's room and do some shameful things with her, but Prague pointed a gun at his head and drove him out of the room. They were heading north, in the direction of the Bering Sea. The cold wind from the Bering Sea not only made the surface of the sea turbulent, but the temperature was also very low. At night, the temperature on the deck was minus 10 degrees Celsius. Chun Zhao quite liked this kind of environment. When he'd reached extreme polarity with both ice and fire at the same time. Therefore, he was very resistant to low temperatures. In fact, not only was he resistant to low temperatures, but could also make his mind more stable. During the day, the temperature was a few degrees Celsius. At night, it plummeted. Chun Zhao sat on the roof of the boat, enjoying the chilly spiritual qi that blew from the bow of the boat. Cultivation didn't make much progress for Chun Zhao. However, the low-temperature spiritual qi could make Chun Zhao's mind more stable. If he encountered an unexpected situation, his emotions wouldn't fluctuate too much. Chun Zhao circulated the Qingyi manual in his body and returned to his original state. When he opened his eyes, he realized that Prague was wrapped in a blanket and sitting not far away, also enjoying the cold wind. Prague, why are you sitting here? Don't you want to rest? Prague glanced at Chun Zhao. Mr. Chun, aren't you cold? Chun Zhao was only wearing a pair of boxers now. Prague really didn't understand how Chun Zhao could endure such low temperatures. Chun Zhao had been sitting there for more than an hour without moving. Prague almost thought that Chun Zhao had frozen to death. Where are we going? Prague asked. Nanchi Island. Never heard of it. Why are we going there? To find the pirate's treasure. Pirate's treasure? That's right. Just then, Pommy hurried out of the cabin. Mr. Chun, bad news. Pommy looked like he'd seen a ghost. What's wrong? Mr. Chun, this area is dangerous. Very dangerous. I can feel it. It's very dangerous. We can't go any further. Looks like we're going in the right direction, Chun Zhao said calmly. But Pommy didn't think so. He'd never felt such intense danger. The information the ocean sent him made his scalp go numb. Danger filled Pammy's mind. Mr. Chun, I'm serious. If we go any further, we'll be dead. I'm not joking. There's something really dangerous up ahead. Oh, that's why I'm here, Chun Zhao said coolly. If we continue forward, we will die in this sea. Okay, it's getting late. Go rest. Chun Zhao turned and left. You can't do this. You get us all killed. Don't make a fuss. This is part of my plan. You have no idea how dangerous this place is. Pommy still wouldn't give up. Almost all the creatures in the sea are dying. All of them are desperately trying to escape. If you think it's dangerous, you can disembark now. By the way, I can provide you with a raft. Pommy froze. A kayak? How could they rely on a kayak in such deep waters? What was the difference between this and suicide? I. Chapter 1267. The boat stopped. The boat in front has stopped. Pommy suddenly exclaimed in surprise. Mr. Chun, they've also discovered the problem. They're leaving. Chun Zhao was also confused. He didn't know why Guret's boat had stopped now. Just then, Guret connected to the boat's radio. Chun, we've reached the outskirts of Nanchi Island. Okay, got it. We plan to enter again tomorrow. Okay, let's anchor here tonight. If we go in again, it'll be a dangerous area. Pommy really wanted to escape from this area. However, Chun Zhao clearly wouldn't let him do that. Nevertheless, he was temporarily safe since he could stop moving forward. Pommy didn't feel sleepy at all. He had been looking at the turbulent sea with a worried look on his face. Pommy still couldn't overcome his fear. He didn't know what was in the water, but it was definitely something that scared him. Just then, a beam of light appeared in the distance. A boat? Another boat appeared nearby. Pommy looked at the boat. It seemed familiar. Wild Bull. That's the Wild Bull. Pommy couldn't help but be excited. He didn't expect the Wild Bull to come here. If he could return to the Wild Bull, he would be safe. Mr. Rick, there are 2 boats in front of us. They're about 10 nautical miles away. Rick picked up his binoculars. After looking for a long time, he was confused. How come one of them is a yacht? Contact the 2 boats, Rick said. Yes. One of the ocean-going boats replied that they're here for research. The other yacht replied automatically and refused to let us get close. Any unauthorized approach will be considered a threat. Rick frowned. Can you tell who they are? The so-called research boat has many bullet holes and explosion marks. It's covered up, but it's clearly a pirate ship. I can't tell what's going on with the other yacht. Pirates? Rick narrowed his eyes. The owner of the yacht should be rich, right? Maybe they're already being held hostage by pirates. A pirate ship and a yacht. The combination was too abrupt. It was hard to connect them together. He couldn't help but think that the yacht was being held hostage. Get closer, Rick ordered. Get closer? But aren't they pirates? So what if they're pirates? Do you think we're honest people? Rick's eyes shone with greed. Since we've met, we naturally want to share. They were all bandits. It was just that they hung out in different places. Rick did not think that he would cower in the face of pirates. Take out all your weapons. Rick said, tell them that we're out of fuel and food. Ask them to supply us with some. Boss, they're approaching us. Guret had also noticed the bison approaching. Guret's face was extremely cold as he stared at the Wild Bull. Anyone who could appear here was definitely not an honest person. He was like this, and so were others. Take out your weapons. As soon as they get close, we'll start fighting. Guret's attitude was unyielding. Seeing that the bison was getting closer and closer, the waves suddenly became bigger. The waves in this area began to grow larger. The pirate ship began to move up and down, and so did the bison. Even the crew would find it hard to resist, let alone fight. Both sides could only temporarily cease hostilities. The bison could only lower its anchor for now. If it did not, the huge waves might damage the ship. Guret looked at the yacht. She realized that Chun Zhao's yacht was also moving in the waves, but it was much smaller. No wonder Chun Zhao drove this yacht over. It had been modified, Guret thought. The waves grew larger and larger. The huge waves were even taller than the hull. Although the ship would not sink, the huge waves were very painful for the people on the yacht. Chun Zhao also woke up. If he still did not wake up, the yacht would capsize. Chun Zhao stretched, looking at the swaying pirate ship in the distance. His mood instantly became much better. Pommy, didn't you sleep? Pommy looked at Chun Zhao, who had just walked out of the cabin. I can't sleep. Mr. Chun, can you take me to that ship? Chun Zhao looked in the direction Pommy was pointing. There was indeed a ship that he had not noticed before. Chun Zhao saw that the name of the ship was Bison. Oh, that's the ship. Chun Zhao remembered that Peter and Prague had said that their original ship was called Bison. It seemed to be this ship. Sure, take the kayak. Pommy looked at Chun Zhao helplessly. The kayak could go over before, but the waves were so big now. The kayak would capsize if it went in. So you're not satisfied? Mr. Chun, can you go closer to the ship? No. Chun Zhao refused without hesitation. That ship is full of bandits. You want me to go closer? Chun Zhao's reason was very good. Plus, He was not even a friend. Pommy was a bit angry, but there was nothing she could do. Pommy could only wait for the sun to rise and the waves to become smaller before going to the bison. But after waiting for a long time, the sky still did not brighten. Even Chun Zhao could feel it. He looked at the time. It was already past 8 in the morning, but the waves were still endless. The sky was still as dark as the night sky. Peter and Prague had also woken up. They also noticed the unusual weather. Guret contacted Chun Zhao. Chun, what's wrong with the sky? I don't know. Don't you know? You've been here before, right? I've been here before, but I've never experienced something like this. Chun Zhao looked at the night sky. He did not feel any magic. However, the unusual weather was definitely not a natural phenomenon. Just then, the bison came toward the yacht. It only stopped when it was more than 10 meters away. It's them? When Prague and Peter saw the bison, their expressions changed. On the deck, Rick also saw Prague, Peter, and Pommy. Why were they here? Signal the yacht and ask for a docking, Rick said. What were they saying? Chun Zhao saw the signal from the crew on the opposite deck. He did not understand. They're asking for a docking, Prague said. In other words, to come closer. Don't let them dock, Peter immediately said. They're up to no good. Let them dock, Chun Zhao said nonchalantly. If they're obedient, then forget it. Take Pommy away. They won't just take her away, Peter said. They must have other intentions. Chapter 1268. A while later, the wild bull came over. Rick stood on the deck and looked at the people across from him. When the wild bull was less than a meter away, it finally dropped its anchor and stopped. Rick jumped onto the boat with a few people. Sir, hello. How should I address you? My surname is Chun. Mr. Chun. Rick's smile was fake. He looked at Peter and Prague. I want to know why they're on your boat. Peter hid behind Chun Zhao subconsciously. Chun Zhao looked at Rick calmly. It's none of your business. Take Pammy and leave my boat. Other than Pammy, I want the two of them to leave with me too. What if I refuse? Chun Zhao asked. Rick sneered. Do you think you have a right to refuse? Rick's men raised their guns and pointed at Chun Zhao. Suddenly, a huge wave crashed toward them. The boat heaved up and down, but Chun Zhao stood firmly on the spot. But Rick and his men couldn't stand still anymore. Chun Zhao suddenly moved. His fingers pierced through Rick's men's chests and pulled them to the sides. Blood splattered all over the deck. Another man tried to resist, but Chun Zhao punched him. The man's head exploded like a watermelon. Fire! Fire! Chun Zhao attacked again. He raised his leg and kicked the man who couldn't stand still in the first place in the stomach. His body fell into the sea like a piece of rag. Chun Zhao grabbed the fourth man's shoulder and his neck with his other hand. He pulled hard, and the fourth man's body was torn from the shoulder to the neck. He didn't die immediately and was still wailing. When the ship stabilized again, Rick was the only one left. The four subordinates he had brought had all died, tragically, in Chun Zhao's hands. Pammy and Peter stared at Chun Zhao, dumbfounded. They'd never seen such a bloody way of killing before. Mr. Chun, I think there's some misunderstanding. No, there's no misunderstanding. Chun Zhao looked at the people on the wild bull. The people on the other side also saw Chun Zhao's killing. Chun Zhao suddenly jumped onto the wild bull. The people on the deck of the bison immediately attacked Chun Zhao. An arrow shot toward Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao caught it and tossed it back. A person died a horrible death. Then he grabbed the face of the person closest to him and pressed it against the ground. Blood splattered everywhere. In a few moments, the four people on the deck were all dead. Chun Zhao charged into the cabin. Screams rose and fell in the cabin. Occasionally, one or two severed limbs would be thrown out. Only a few minutes had passed from beginning to end. When Chun Zhao walked out of the cabin, he was covered in blood. Chun Zhao returned to his boat and looked at Rick with a smile. Rick had never thought that one day he would actually provoke such a malefic star. That blood-stained face was filled with ghastly horror. Do I have the right to refuse now? Rick paled in fear. He stared at Chun Zhao in horror. Just because of a disagreement, he killed more than 20 people on his ship, had already foreseen this. She knew better than anyone else how terrifying and powerful Chun Zhao was. In this battle, Chun Zhao didn't even use 1/10 of his strength. But Pete and Pammy were different. To them, this level was enough to scare them to death. Rick's face paled even more. Mr. Chun, I actually didn't plan to what? Didn't plan to have a conflict with me? Do you think there's any point in saying this now? I cleaned my boat, Chen Zhao said. You dirted my boat. Everyone was speechless. You made the decks so bloody. You must have done it yourself, right? But Chen Zhao didn't realize it at all. He felt that it was Rick and his men who did it. Mr. Chun, I'll watch him for you. If there's any residue left on the deck, I'll find it for you. Pete had been pissed off by Rick before. Now that he finally had a chance to take revenge, he was very enthusiastic and proactive. Pammy's face was also pale. Mr. Chun, you're not welcome here. Chen Zhao's attitude was firm. Pammy didn't have good intentions. Before the boarding, he'd already expected a conflict. Actually, the conflict could have been avoided. But he didn't even warn Chen Zhao. Even if Chen Zhao didn't care, it didn't mean that he could tolerate a passenger with bad intentions. Chen Zhao could even tolerate a hot-tempered young master like Pete because he'd already paid the fees. But Chen Zhao didn't have the obligation to tolerate Pammy. After cleaning up the deck, Rick looked at Chen Zhao with trepidation. Chen Zhao glanced at Rick. He'd attacked again. After a painful scream, Rick's arms were torn off by Chen Zhao. Okay, you can get off my boat now. You can't do this. You killed all the people on the bison. We can't even start the bison. Huh, what does that have to do with me? Chen Zhao chuckled. An ocean-going boat was different from a yacht. A yacht was about simple operation. In other words, it was a system that only idiots could operate. Even people without any sailing experience would be able to operate it. However, an ocean-going boat was different. There were all kinds of equipment and at least 20 people. Just the cockpit needed 3 people. There were also the engine room and the pressure room that needed a few people to watch. If one person was alone, he'd probably die of exhaustion. As for Rick, he was already useless now. Okay, you can go, or I'll throw you off the boat. Chen Zhao ordered them to leave again. Pete, take care of those arms. Pammy stared at Chen Zhao with hatred. That look of yours can easily get you killed, Chen Zhao said with a smile. Shocked, Pammy lowered his head and didn't dare to look at Chen Zhao anymore. He was afraid that he'd reveal more hatred. Pammy jumped onto the bison. Pete also threw Rick onto the boat. Rick, if there's a chance next time, come to Los Angeles. I'll treat you to a drink, Pete said proudly. Pammy started the bison. It was hard for him to do it alone, but it wasn't completely unusable. After starting the bison, Pammy started cleaning up the bodies on the boat. He threw them into the sea one by one, including Rick, who hadn't died yet. With my flesh and blood, I offer your chaos. With the silence of the 4 seas, I exchange your darkness. Respond to my horn, woo woo woo. A loud horn sounded from the bison. The yacht was already a nautical mile away, but it could still hear the horn. Mr. Chun, Pammy probably won't let this go. After all, he's a spiritualist too. Chapter 1269. What's in the sea? Peter realized that something seemed to be moving in the raging waves. Chen Zhao had noticed it long ago. Amon had warned him. A large number of sharks were approaching. Without a doubt, Pammy had summoned them. But what could they do? No matter how many there were, could they jump onto the yacht? Or sink the yacht? Stop joking. This was reality, not a movie or a novel. The bottom and body of Chen Zhao's yacht were made of carbon alloy that was 25 centimeters thick. Carbon alloy was very light, but it was many times stronger than regular steel. Of course, it was also many times more expensive. Unless the sharks were as big as Amon, they could leave a dent in the yacht. But sharks couldn't do any damage to the yacht. It was the same for 1 shark, 10, 100, or 1,000 sharks. The saying, ants can bite an elephant to death, didn't happen in reality. Even if the sharks used suicide attacks, it was just suicide, not an attack. It was like a normal person hitting an iron plate with their head. Apart from suicide, there was no other use. The iron plate was still iron, but the head would become a watermelon. The sharks hit the yacht, making thumping sounds. It sounded terrifying, but it was actually the sound of the carbon alloy spreading the impact. If the sharks couldn't attack 100 times faster, their numbers wouldn't matter. Peter and Bragg were terrified. After all, the sound was terrifying. They were worried that the yacht would be smashed. If they fell into the water, Chun Zhao might not be afraid, but they would definitely die. Nevertheless, Chun Zhao didn't plan on letting the sharks attack. Suddenly, Peter and Bragg realized that the water turned red. Then a shark surfaced. At first, they thought that the shark had been killed by a collision, but upon closer inspection, they realized that it wasn't the case. The shark seemed to have been bitten by something. Half of its body was gone. It was also more than 6 meters long. At least half of its body was 3 meters long. It had to be a huge beast to be able to bite in half. Just then, another half of the shark surfaced, and then another. To regular people, these sharks might be ferocious beasts in the sea, but compared to Amon, they were clearly not enough. Even the largest great white shark in the sea would not exceed 8 meters in length. An ordinary adult great white shark would basically maintain a length of about 6 meters. It weighed about 3 tons, while an adult killer whale could reach a length of 10 meters and weigh more than 10 tons. Amon's body length reached 75 meters, and his weight was 800 tons. Every time Amon grew up, he would gain a lot of weight. After all, normal creatures wouldn't just grow in length. If it only had length, then it would be a snake. For the giant beasts in the ocean, the bigger they grew, the bigger their bodies became. Not only did Amon's body grow in length and weight, but he was also gradually revealing his demonic form. Chun Zhao didn't even dare to let Amon appear before ordinary people. Amon was fighting with a school of sharks in the sea. Amon's lethality towards them was fatal. Basically, a single bite, a sweep of his tail, or a collision with his body would be fatal. But the shark couldn't even break Amon's skin. Now, Amon's skin was as hard as diamond. Even a large caliber gun might not be able to penetrate his skin. There was more than one halberd growing out of his back. There were also many bone spurs growing out of his back, as if they were inlaid with pieces of blades. Within a 1-kilometer radius, there were hundreds of shark corpses floating. The entire sea had turned red. Shock was written all over Bragg and Peter's faces. The pirates on Guret's ship were also shocked. "Boss, what's going on?" Guret pointed at the yacht in the distance. "The owner of that yacht did it." "Him? How'd he do it?" "His pet is in the water," Guret said. "This is why I'm working with him. Don't get into conflict with him, especially at sea, because you won't even have a place to run." To be honest, even Chun Zhao was surprised by Pommy's magic. Actually, Pommy's magic was already very good. It even exceeded Chun Zhao's expectations. If the target was someone else, perhaps Pommy's magic could create a massacre. "Master, we've killed all the sharks. Catch up with that ship and kill that man." In the past, Amon couldn't do anything to those large ocean-going ships either. Ocean-going ships were all made of 80-centimeter stainless steel. In the past, Amon would be in the same situation as the sharks against Chun Zhao's yacht. But it was different now. Amon was a huge piece of iron now. An 800-ton iron block could smash anything into pieces. Perhaps an aircraft carrier couldn't be destroyed, but a medium-sized ocean-going ship could be smashed by Amon with just one hit. Pommy sensed that the sharks he'd summoned were disappearing one by one. This took him by surprise. He guessed that was probably Chun Zhao's doing. Chun Zhao was also a spiritualist. Although he said that he was a strengthening magician, he also said that he knew many types of magic. Coupled with the fact that the summoned sharks had mysteriously disappeared when he had shown him the magic earlier, Lin Li had no idea what was going on. Pommy's feeling grew stronger. It was definitely Chun Zhao's doing. Pommy somewhat regretted his recklessness. Suddenly, Pommy saw a black shadow coming from the sea. That black shadow was very big, and it was very fast. But because it was more than 10 meters underwater, Pommy couldn't see clearly. The bad feeling grew stronger. Boom! The huge impact threw Pommy 3 meters away. Then the ship started tilting. Pommy hurriedly grabbed onto the protrusion. He couldn't stop the ship from tilting at all. There was nothing he could do. Just then, he saw the black shadow again. It wasn't as long as the bison, but it was still shockingly huge. As the shadow approached the sea, Pommy finally saw it clearly. What was that? A killer whale? Could a killer whale grow so scary? The thing in the water looked like a combination of certain things. Apart from a huge sword that looked like a blade, There was also a row of blade-like bone spikes. On both sides of the huge mouth, there were two exposed bones that looked like ivory. On its black back, there were faint golden patterns. Pommy had never seen such a creature before. Chapter 1270. Chun, I don't know what's wrong with the sky. It's not bright at all. We can't wait anymore. Let's go to Nanchi Island now. Guret contacted Chun Zhao and told him the plan. Just then, an aurora appeared in the night sky. The dazzling aurora was intoxicating. Everyone who saw it opened their mouths. Chun Zhao also looked up at the aurora. It was his first time seeing one. He had to admit that the aurora was too beautiful. It was filled with mystery and unknown beauty. But Chun Zhao couldn't help but wonder. Theoretically, this place was still some distance from the Bering Sea. It was a warm and cold sea, so there shouldn't be such an abnormal aurora. The two boats approached Nanchi Island. Nanchi Island wasn't on the common map or navigation. It was an undeveloped and undiscovered island. There were more than 30,000 islands in the Pacific Ocean. The total area of the islands was 4 million square kilometers, which was almost half the size of China. Many newly discovered islands would be added every year. Many islands had magical natural phenomena. Just like Nanchi Island, there were many islands that were submerged in the water for half of the year. The reason why it would sink into the water was because the island was in a very low position. Secondly, the Earth's crust was very active. There were many islands that could dive. There were islands like this off the coast of China. Volcanoes were active at the bottom of the sea and erupted periodically. Every time a volcano erupted, the Earth's crust would move, causing the nearby land plates to shift. After sailing for an hour, Chun Zhao finally saw the outline of Nanchi Island. Just then, Chun Zhao felt something approaching the boat. It wasn't Amon. Then the boat shook. A huge tentacle reached out from the sea and circled around the deck. The suction cups on the tentacle grabbed the boat tightly. The tentacle was more than 1 meter in diameter and more than 30 meters long. Peter and Prague were both frightened by the tentacle. Peter screamed, "Help! North Sea monster! We've encountered a North Sea monster." Some scholars believe that the North Sea monster in ancient Greek mythology was a deep-sea giant cuttlefish. This was common knowledge. Suddenly, the tentacle suction cups loosened, because Amon had already arrived and bit the tentacle's body in half. This monster was not a giant squid, but an octopus. A super large octopus. Chun Zhao sensed that the octopus's body and tentacles were at least 50 meters long. Amon liked the taste very much. At least, Amon didn't eat a single bite of the sharks from before. But this octopus, Amon swallowed half of its body in one gulp. However, this kind of mollusk was not dead. Even though half of its body was bitten off, it was still not completely dead. Several huge tentacles wrapped tightly around Amon. Amon jumped out of the water. At this moment, Prague and Pete finally saw Amon's true body. Both of them opened their mouths wide and looked at Amon in disbelief. The pirates on the ancient ship also had faces full of disbelief. What was that? Guret, on the other hand, frowned. Compared to the first time he met Amon, Amon's appearance had changed a lot. Back then, Amon was huge, but not to this extent. Furthermore, its appearance was that of a true killer whale. But at this moment, Amon was completely in the form of a monster. "Mr. Chun, what is that?" "Monster. Monster. There's a monster in the water. Let's run. Let's run." Chun Zhao glanced at Pete disapprovingly. However, before they could get close to Nanchi Island, they saw a warship. More accurately, it was a piece of scrap metal. The warship was upside down and pierced into the water. Guret had said that not long ago, a naval fleet had been completely annihilated here. This warship should be one of them. Suddenly, the seawater churned. It was as if thousands of horses were galloping in the sea. Chun Zhao could sense that many smaller creatures were approaching from below the sea. Amon started to clean them up. They were very small, but there were many of them. Amon jumped out of the water again. On Amon's body, many small things stuck to him like parasites. Amon's body shook and the small things were sent flying. Amon didn't just rely on his huge body to dominate the sea. He also had a certain ability to control the water flow. Guret's pirate ship stopped in front. Chen Zhao saw something climb onto the ship. Fish. The image of the little fishmen in the game flashed across Chen Zhao's mind. They were very similar to the little fishmen. They were only 30 to 40 centimeters tall, about the size of an inferior demon. Their skin was smooth and dark blue. They had 4 limbs. They were also very strong at climbing. Chen Zhao saw them climb onto the pirate ship and start attacking the pirates. But they were too weak. Gurette and her men started to fight back. Just then, the little fishmen also climbed onto the ship. Peter and Bragg immediately took sticks and began to beat these little fishmen. Basically, with a swing of his stick, he could kill several of them. However, there were too many inferior manfish. More and more of them climbed onto the ship. These little manfish were ferocious and gluttonous. They didn't let their companions' corpses go either. Instead of attacking, they went to eat their companions' corpses. Mr. Chun, hurry up and think of something. Prague finally asked Chen Zhao for help. Chen Zhao stood where he was, rubbing his chin in thought. The little fishmen didn't attack Chen Zhao. Instead, they kept attacking Prague and Pete. They weren't very smart, but they could feel that Chen Zhao wasn't easy to deal with. In fact, the number of little fishmen climbing onto the ship was actually quite small. Amon was in the sea, devouring them like crazy. These inferior manfish were like popcorn am. They were small, but there were a lot of them. Amon could suck hundreds of them into his mouth when he opened it. Chen Zhao grabbed an inferior manfish and observed it. The aura of this little manfish was very weak, but there was a sense of familiarity. Amon was rarely interested in normal food. The only food he was interested in was either demonic crystals or a god of the mutants. A god of the mutants. Chen Zhao finally remembered. These little fishmen weren't demonized. They'd been corroded by the aura of the god of the mutants. Chen Zhao couldn't tell what they were originally, but they were definitely some kind of fish. Amon was a demon, so he was very interested in god of the mutants and mutated creatures. Chen Zhao was interested. He'd never tried devouring a god of the mutants. Chen Zhao activated the mouth of gluttony and swallowed the little fishman. The mouth of gluttony immediately felt a strong appetite. Chapter 1271. Peter and Prague were already exhausted. They were all complaining inside, wondering why Chen Zhao wasn't attacking yet. Seeing that it was about time, Chen Zhao squatted down and pressed his hands on the deck. Instantly, electricity was released. Peter and Prague were the first to scream. The strong electricity numbed their bodies first, causing them to fall to the ground. At the same time, all the fishermen on the deck were electrocuted too. Nevertheless, Chen Zhao's control of the voltage was still very accurate. It could numb Peter and Prague, but it wasn't fatal. It did a lot of damage to the fishmen. Their size meant their resistance to electricity. Many inferior manfish were killed on the spot, and some passed out from the electric shock. The two only felt like they were electrocuted for a moment. They quickly climbed back up. What just happened? Peter still didn't understand. Prague knew. She'd seen Chen Zhao control lightning and electricity before, so she wasn't surprised by this attack. Chen Zhao looked at his right palm. It was indeed inconvenient without lightning storm. His individual power was already strong enough, but his range was very limited. The demon god cannon could be considered a medium to small range attack. It was powerful, but its range was still very limited. Its accuracy couldn't compare to lightning storm either. It wasn't hard to create pure damage, especially if it had a large area of effect. It could be done with some explosives. With Chen Zhao's current connections and power, it really wasn't hard to get these things. But the problem was that if he threw these things out, he would be affected too. Therefore, other than large-scale damage, he also needed enough accuracy. Lightning Storm was the most perfect AoE skill to use. It covered a wide range, was accurate, controlled, and had decent damage. It basically matched Chen Zhao's 4 requirements for AoE attacks. If he had to point out a flaw, it would be the limitations of its usage. It could only be used in the headquarters. It could only be used for defense. It couldn't be used as an attack. For example, if Chen Zhao had Lightning Storm, the battle would be much easier. But Chen Zhao didn't have it. He couldn't help it. On the pirate ship, Gurette and her subordinates were even better than Chen Zhao's. Guret had many people and a lot of heavy firepower. The fishermen that had climbed onto the pirate ship had already been cleaned up. Moreover, they were still attacking the surface of the sea, throwing grenades into the water. Meanwhile, on Chun Zhao's yacht, the mermen started climbing up again. Chun Zhao was also helpless about this situation. Unless Chun Zhao ignored Prague and Peter's lives and kept using the Eye of the Thunder, Chun Zhao could kill Rick and the other bandits, but Chun Zhao might kill the two of them because of that. Up until now, Chun Zhao had never killed an innocent person. He didn't even think that he had to kill an annoying young master like Peter. "You two step back. Leave the rest to me," Chun Zhao said. Prague retreated decisively while Peter looked at him in confusion. Shouldn't the more people, the better? Suddenly, Peter saw Chun Zhao's feet float off the deck. Breaking free from gravity? Peter widened his eyes and stared at Chun Zhao in shock. What was going on? Suddenly, Peter remembered that Prague had mentioned that Chun Zhao was a spiritualist. And then there was the inexplicable electric shock just now. Everything was proving Chun Zhao's true identity. Dark magma started spreading around Chun Zhao. Peter stared at Chun Zhao in shock. Chun Zhao flew a few meters into the air. Then he tilted forward and landed on the water. The dark magma spread toward the surface of the sea. At the same time, it started churning wildly. All the mermen that approached the yacht were instantly minced. Chun Zhao shouted at Peter and Prague, "Start the yacht. Go forward." Not daring to delay, the two hurriedly started the yacht. Amon was also in the water under Chun Zhao's feet. One was above the water and the other was below. Everything had been crushed by Chun Zhao and Amon. Just then, Amon jumped out of the water. Chun Zhao landed on Amon's back and steadied himself. A beam of white light shot out of Chun Zhao's right arm. It pierced through the darkness and cleared the area hundreds of meters in front of him. Peter and Prague were both stunned. That monster had teamed up with Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao looked at the pirate ship. The pressure on the ship suddenly increased. Even bigger monsters had boarded the ship. Those things were very similar to the legendary Naga. It had green scales, and its upper body resembled that of a fish, while its lower body resembled that of a human. Its body still retained many of the characteristics of a fish, and it had 4 thick limbs. Naga weren't created in the game. In fact, there were Naga sirens in Greek mythology. Chun Zhao immediately rushed toward the pirate ship. When Chun Zhao landed on the ship from the sky, everyone was stunned. Even Guret didn't expect Chun Zhao to board her ship like this. "Set sail," Chun Zhao said. "I'll lead the way for you." With that, Chun Zhao dove into the battle again. The dark magma turned into long spears and stabbed into the water. Every time he stabbed a Naga, he would lift it up and then devour it through the mouth of gluttony. Guret's subordinates had never seen such a terrifying and strange battle. They all stared at Chun Zhao, dumbfounded. "What are you waiting for?" Guret yelled. "Set sail now." The two ships formed a straight line. The pirate ship was in front, and the yacht followed. Chun Zhao led the way and killed at the front. They were getting closer and closer to Nanchi Island, but the attacks were getting fiercer. Amon leaped out of the water again and shot a water bomb dozens of meters away in midair. Wherever the water bomb landed, everything was crushed. The power of his water bomb wasn't any weaker than a 10-kilogram TNT bomb. The pirates on the pirate ship and Peter and Prague on the yacht were all dumbfounded. This man and beast were like killing gods. Even an army of thousands of men and horses could not stop their footsteps. "Prague, you already knew? Have you forgotten that I went missing for 3 days? Our paranormal society accidentally intruded into his territory and witnessed him and his men fighting a group of demons. You haven't seen a real demon with your own eyes, so you can't imagine how scary he is." Chun Zhao's eyes hardened. He suddenly remembered. Even if the small mermen and Naga could defeat the Navy fleet, they wouldn't be able to keep the ships on the sea. Chapter 1272. Suddenly, a bloody mouth burst out of the sea and bit Chun Zhao in midair. Caught off guard, Chun Zhao was pulled into the sea. Everyone turned pale with fright when they saw this scene. They didn't expect Chun Zhao, who had been so powerful just a moment ago, to fall into such a trap. What was that thing that just rushed out of the sea? It looked like a crocodile, but did a crocodile have horns? Also, wasn't that body a little bigger? The bloody mouth above the water was more than 10 meters wide. Even Chun Zhao wouldn't be able to escape after being bitten by that thing, right? But not long after, the giant crocodile surfaced, and its upper jaw was completely broken. Chun Zhao was standing on the crocodile's mouth. He looked unscathed, and his eyes scanned the surroundings vigilantly. Just then, more crocodiles appeared around them. Not 3 to 5, not 30 to 50. There were hundreds of them. These crocodiles didn't just attack Chun Zhao. They also attacked the pirate ships and yachts. The pirate ship was fine. The pirates were armed, and their heavy firepower could barely kill 1 or 2 giant crocodiles. However, Peter and Prague on the yacht could do nothing. The yacht was knocked off course. Chun Zhao immediately rushed to the yacht. He saw that the bottom of the yacht was dented and damaged. Heartbroken, Chun Zhao immediately grabbed Peter and Prague. He lifted them into the air and threw them onto the pirate ship. The yacht had been severely damaged under the attack of the crocodiles. Chun Zhao was infuriated. The purpose of this trip was to look for treasures, but before he could earn any money, he had lost the yacht. Of course, Chun Zhao did not blame Guret. This was because Guret had reminded him many times before he left. This time, Chun Zhao and Guret were working together. Chun Zhao's mission was to help Guret land in the waters close to Nanshi Island. Even though the losses were more than expected, it was still Chun Zhao's own doing. Chun Zhao was going to drive the yacht himself. So, no matter what the loss was, he had to bear it himself. His only hope now was that the pirates' treasure on Nanshi Island could make up for his loss. But now was not the time for Chun Zhao to think too much. The giant crocodile began to attack the pirate ship. The pirate ship was sturdier than Chun Zhao's yacht. However, against such a group of giant crocodiles, the pirate ship would not be able to hold on for long. At this time, the pirate ship had already tilted, and several pirates slid from the tilted deck into the sea. Then, accompanied by a few screams, he was swallowed by the giant crocodile. No matter how hard Chun Zhao and Amon fought, they couldn't stop the crocodile from attacking the pirate ship. It couldn't be helped. There were just too many giant crocodiles. Chun, help! Guret lay prone at the stern of the sinking ship. He looked at Peter and Prague, who were also struggling to protect themselves. The other pirates were also having a hard time protecting themselves. They either slid down or grabbed onto the handrails. Gulai didn't expect Nanshi Island to be so terrifying. Everything was a mess. Her and Chun Zhao's plan had been ruined by the attack of these crocodiles. Chun Zhao first mentioned Guret and then looked at Prague and Peter. He gritted his teeth and placed Guret on his back. Hold on tight. They swooped down at the same time and picked up Pete and Prague with both hands. Just then, he heard Amon's cry for help. Even he could not face so many mutant giant crocodiles. Chun Zhao placed the 3 on the barbed warship in the water and returned to the battlefield. Chun Zhao couldn't abandon Amon for the treasure. Guret's face was pale. She'd never experienced such despair in her life. But she also felt lucky. If not for Chun Zhao, she would be dead for sure. Looking at her pirate ship and her subordinates, Guret sighed. She'd watched her subordinates die and her pirate ship sink, but there was nothing she could do. Prague and Peter were also scared. If not for Chun Zhao's help, they would definitely be eaten by the crocodiles. These crocodiles were much bigger than the sharks from before. Every one of them was more than 20 meters long. Their mouths, in particular, were ridiculously large. It was no wonder that Amon couldn't beat them. If there were only a dozen, Amon could crush them in all aspects. But it wasn't just a dozen, but hundreds. But with Chun Zhao's participation, Amon's pressure was greatly reduced. Amon, you're in charge of devouring these monsters, Chun Zhao said. There was definitely a mutant god hidden on Nanshi Island, and this mutant god was definitely much stronger than the Fallen Source. After all, the Fallen Source couldn't create so many mutant monsters. This was like an army. In ancient times, it could definitely sweep through the world. Of course, if Amon could eat as much as he wanted, These mutant monsters would also be great nourishment. Of course, Amon didn't eat them all. He only devoured the mutant power in them. Once the mutant monsters were killed, Amon would immediately charge forward and devour them with power. Chun Zhao was so focused on killing that the entire sea turned blood red. At this moment, Guret, Peter, and Prague, who were nestled at the stern of the warship, were all dumbfounded as they watched this scene. Especially Peter. Before today, he didn't believe that there was magic in this world. But now he had to believe it. Chun Zhao had killed more than 100 mutant crocodiles, but he didn't feel tired. This was the benefit of clear heaven and earth. Chun Zhao's small world could provide him with more magic power. At the same time, it could help him recover his magic power dozens of times faster. But if he continued such a high-intensity battle, his body would still feel tired. So, Chun Zhao decided to change tactics. Chun Zhao jumped out of the water. He took out his zither and placed it between his legs. 12 light swords were unsheathed. In the past, when Chun Zhao used rhythm to control the swords, he still had to consider his magic power consumption. But now, he didn't have to think at all. The mana consumption of the swords wasn't as fast as the recovery speed of the small world. Chun Zhao could play the zither until the end of time. The damage and killing speed of the swords were clearly much faster than physical combat. It was even faster than a mountain of knives formed from dark lava. The 12 light swords were like 12 death talismans. Although the 12 light swords might be damaged if they were to face some powerful opponents, they were still able to withstand the power of the swords. However, these mutant crocodiles were between strong and weak. They weren't strong or weak. Instead, they gave the light swords space to perform. The 12 swords darted in and out of the sea. Their killing efficiency was astounding. Chun Zhao had learned rhythm before ultimate transformation. Now, he was enchanting and clear heaven and earth were clear. Chapter 1273. Amon changed again, but this time he didn't grow bigger. Instead, the wings under his belly grew bigger. They became extremely large, like a pair of wings growing from his belly. When Samuel's original body had summoned Chun Zhao had accidentally summoned Amon to hell. Chun Zhao had seen Amon's original body back then. Amon's original body could float in the air. Chun Zhao had always wondered if Amon was the so-called Kuan Pong. The more supernatural things Chun Zhao came into contact with, the more he believed in myths and legends. Now Amon was also growing toward his original body. Master, I can feel it. There's a strong aura of an alien god on that island. It's very strong. Amon's warning was within Chun Zhao's expectations. To be able to make so many creatures mutate, the original body must be on Nanshi Island. Are there any other mutated creatures in the surrounding waters? Many, but they're not strong. Devour all the mutated creatures, Chun Zhao said. Chun Zhao looked at his boat. It had been completely destroyed in the chaotic battle. Now, he could only see the bottom of the boat in the sea. Chun Zhao was in a bad mood. He had to go to Nanshi Island to find the treasure. Now, Chun Zhao was invincible. He would kill whoever dared to stop him from finding the treasure. Chun Zhao went to the back of the boat. Because it wasn't big, Peter, Prague, and Guret didn't even have space to move. Guret, get on my back first. Carrying Guret and Peter and Prague, Chun Zhao flew to Nanshi Island. Mr. Chun, you're Superman, right? Peter looked at Chun Zhao with bright eyes. Chun Zhao was in a bad mood. He wasn't in the mood to answer Peter's question. Guret, it's up to you now. Chun Zhao had saved Guret not only because they knew each other and could be considered friends, but also because Guret was the key to this treasure hunt. She was the only person who had been to Nanshi Island. She'd said before that she and the original owner of the island, the big-bellied pirate family, were a bit pretentious. So, if Chun Zhao wanted to find the family's treasure, he could only rely on Guret. Chun, are there monsters on the island? Yes, I can feel the aura of monsters. There are many, and they're very strong. Chun Zhao didn't hide it. The aura was also very heavy, so Chun Zhao couldn't find where the monster was hiding. Nanshi Island's area was not big. It was less than 10 square kilometers. It wasn't even as big as Chun Zhao's private land at Mirror Lake. Nanshi Island's terrain was relatively simple. Not far away, there was a large mountain that occupied most of the island. Most of the island was made of rocks, and the ground was very wet. It looked like it had just risen from the sea level. Giret's heart was heavy. Peter and Bragg's expressions became unnatural. But now, they had no other choice. He could only follow beside Chun Zhao. Let's go. Gulai led the way. Mr. Chun, why don't you just fly us? That way, we'll be able to find the treasure faster. I don't care. Chun Zhao shrugged. Flying with 3 people did put a lot of pressure on Chun Zhao, but Chun Zhao didn't know what to do. Carrying 3 people on the ground and carrying 3 people in the sky were 2 completely different concepts. He felt like he was flying with a tank in his hand. Giret also looked at him. She also thought that it was a good idea. If a monster attacks later, I can only throw you down, Chun Zhao said. Are you willing? Never mind then. Hearing Chun Zhao's words, the 3 immediately understood. If they encountered a monster with Chun Zhao's strength, he would definitely be fine. But if the 3 of them faced a monster, they would definitely die. Not to mention anything else, Chun Zhao would definitely throw them down when he fought a monster. If they fell from the sky, they would definitely die. To be honest, after arriving at Nanshi Island, the alien god's aura was much stronger than before. If this aura covered the entire island, Chun Zhao had to be careful. Such a powerful aura was probably 100 times stronger than the fallen source, right? So if something happened, Chun Zhao would also go all out. He could barely protect the 3 on the ground, but if they flew into the sky, it would be even more difficult. Chun Zhao would rather be safe and approach the location of the treasure slowly instead of charging around recklessly. Giret could vaguely sense Chun Zhao's expression. She also felt the pressure from Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao had never been so serious before. When Chun Zhao had dealt with the 3-headed dragon, he had still been as casual as before. But this time, Chun Zhao was actually so serious. Giret could only vaguely sense it. In fact, Chun Zhao had already used one of his trump cards, 10,000 spells return to 1. 10,000 spells return to 1 was one of Chun Zhao's strongest trump cards, but when Chun Zhao didn't attack, it gave off the feeling that it was the most ordinary. If one didn't face Chun Zhao directly, they definitely wouldn't understand how terrifying 10,000 spells return to 1 was. To be honest, I'm really curious how the big-bellied family lives on Nanshi Island. The island spends half of its time in the water. They can't be in the water too, right? Giret chuckled. What do you think of Nanshi Island's geology? Chun Zhao frowned and thought for a few minutes. What does this have to do with geology? The main structure of the island is Kosi granite, which has very good impermeability. What Miss Giret means is that the family built their home under the rock stratum. That way, if the island sinks into the water, there won't be any problems as long as it's sealed well. Chun Zhao suddenly understood. No wonder. There were no buildings or even plants on the island. It didn't seem like people had lived here before, so it was to dig a hole and build a base underground. That made sense. When the big-bellied family stole the gold, it was less than a week before Nanshi Island sank. Their family thought that as long as Nanshi Island dived into the sea, even the Navy wouldn't be able to do anything to them. But they underestimated Citibank's determination and anger. The Navy appeared near Nanshi Island the next day and launched an attack on the island. Chun Zhao looked around. Because there was a lot of mud here, he couldn't tell that the island had been attacked. First, there was a large-scale bombing, then the Navy landed. After Nanshi Island was attacked, the big-bellied family couldn't fight back at all. Then, the biggest change happened. The demonic seal they'd been guarding for centuries was destroyed. The family and the Navy on the island were all destroyed. Chapter 1274. Gold and the wealth that the big-bellied family had accumulated over hundreds of years. Now, these things were on the island, right under their feet. Peter and Bragg didn't want to share the loot. It was already good enough that Chun Zhao could send them back. A share? Peter and Bragg only wanted Lothar now. The entire island was covered in mud. The mud had been brought up from the bottom of the sea. There was also a large amount of seafood along the way. Of course, Most of them had died from dehydration. Some of the mud had dried up, but many places were still soft. Suddenly, the ground before them arched. There seemed to be something hidden under the mud, and it was rushing towards them from under the mud. Guret, Peter, and Bragg all stopped. Chun Zhao walked forward. He also wanted to see what was coming. Something had come to help him vent his anger when he was angry. A few meters in front of Chun Zhao, the mud suddenly exploded. A multicolored lobster jumped out of it. Yes, it was a lobster. The only difference was that he was a little bigger. It was 20 meters long, and its skin was like a mollusk. It kept changing colors. It waved its pincers at Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao threw a clean punch. Guret, Peter, and Bragg knew that Chun Zhao was strong. But the lobster before them wasn't weak either, right? At least they thought that Chun Zhao would have a fight with the lobster. But the result made their jaws drop. Chun Zhao's seemingly casual punch actually shattered the 20-meter-long lobster. Is this lobster made of foam? The pieces of the lobster spread in a radius of 100 meters. So, if one didn't face Chun Zhao directly, they wouldn't know how strong Chun Zhao's punch was. This mutant lobster was definitely stronger than those mutant giant crocodiles. But Chun Zhao's punch had smashed it into pieces. At this time, more mutant lobsters crawled out of the mud. There were dozens of them. They weren't just lobsters. More mutated creatures crawled out of the mud. Mutated crab, mutated octopus, an assortment of creatures appeared before Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao summoned Blackened Bustil. When Bustil appeared, Peter and Guret were both shocked. Prague, on the other hand, had seen Bustil before, so he wasn't surprised. Everyone thought that Blackened Bustil was going to participate in the battle, but that wasn't the case. The Blackened Buster was there to protect them. Meanwhile, Chun Zhao charged into the group of monsters. The dark magma was like a sea urchin, turning into countless spikes that shot out in all directions. In the blink of an eye, it pierced through a dozen mutated monsters. However, Chun Zhao was still not satisfied with this killing speed. Swordplay was not suitable for this battle. This was because most of these mutant creatures had shells. Through close contact, Chun Zhao could tell that the shells of these mutated creatures were very hard. It was not the time for his 12 light swords to fight. If he was not careful and slashed the mutated monster's shell, the result might be the disintegration light sword. Chun Zhao's heart skipped a beat. The dark magma was ever-changing. He seemed to be limited to simulating blades. Chun Zhao lifted his arms. The dark lava suddenly rose by 100 feet. Spin! Chun Zhao shouted. Immediately, the dark magma started spinning wildly. The dark magma turned into a tornado. The center of the dark magma was hollow. However, on the inner wall, there were countless sword edges. It was like a drum washing machine spinning wildly. To Chun Zhao, this drum washing machine was another big move. Moreover, it consumed more magic power than swordplay. However, after killing the mutant monsters, the dark magma devoured more and more of the unusual god's power. This caused the dark magma's power to increase by another level. The tornado formed by the dark magma became even stronger. Of course, Chun Zhao didn't want to be called a drum washing machine. Chun Zhao named it Dark Storm. Previously, Chun Zhao had been thinking about ranged attacks. Now, he finally developed a killer move that belonged to the dark magma. The tornado grew larger and larger. The more monsters it devoured, the bigger it became. The mutant creatures tried to escape, but they couldn't. The suction force of the tornado was too strong. In a short 20 minutes, all the mutant monsters were devoured by the tornado. All of a sudden, a vast expanse opened up in front of them. Everything had been cleared. Chun Zhao had an idea. He immediately called to Guret, "Sit on my pet's back. Let's move faster." Guret was confused. Chun Zhao hadn't been in a hurry earlier. Why was he in such a hurry now? But Chun Zhao didn't have time to explain. After the three climbed on a Bustil's back, Chun Zhao also flew. Which direction? That way, Guret said, pointing. The entrance to the Big Belly family's base was set halfway up the mountain. Their base was hidden in the mountain. Dark Bustil flapped its wings and rushed in that direction. Chun Zhao flew in the front. But just then, a large number of mutant monsters appear below. Only a few of them could fly, or they could attack the air. Chun Zhao controlled the dark storm to sweep across the ground. As for the flying mutant monsters, Chun Zhao dealt with them personally. Guret and the other two sat behind Bastille. They were worried that they would fall, but they were also worried about Chun Zhao's battle. Chun Zhao didn't put Bastille away until they reached the entrance of the mountain. The three heaved a sigh of relief, but Chun Zhao seemed to be in a hurry right now. Hurry! Don't waste time. We'll leave after we get what we want. Chun, why are you in such a hurry? Guret asked, confused. Chun Zhao looked around and shook his head. I can't say. Just then, the ground started shaking violently. It's starting? What's starting? Stop nagging. Which way should we go? The Big Belly family's base is up ahead. After entering the belly of the mountain, Guret found a button and pressed it. A hole appeared in the stone wall in front of him. The stone wall was still a modern password door. It wasn't too high-tech or complicated. There were also traces of seawater here. It was probably because Nanchi Island had unexpectedly sunk during the attack. The Big Belly family didn't have time to seal the entrance, so seawater flooded into the base and the Big Belly family was wiped out. Along the way, there were some corpses that had been soaked in seawater. They were definitely the Big Belly family members. Chapter 1275. The Pot Belly family's base was built in the middle of the mountain. It had a modern feel. A large area of metal was laid out. Even though it had been soaked in seawater, it was still a nice building structure. How much further? Chun Zhao urged. It's pretty deep, Guret said. She was anxious too, mainly because she was affected by Chun Zhao's emotions. She could feel Chun Zhao's anxiety. She didn't know what Chun Zhao had discovered that made him so anxious. But for him to be so anxious, it definitely wasn't something good. Chun, did you discover something? Find the gold and the Pot Belly family's treasure as soon as possible, Chun Zhao said. Suddenly, a piece of meat surged out from the tunnel ahead. The piece of meat was like soft mud as it flowed through the tunnel towards the four of them. Guret jumped in fright. Chun Zhao raised his arm. Just as the meat was about to reach him, a white light flashed. The meat was penetrated, but it kept wriggling. After the wriggling, the meat formed a face. Humans, you shouldn't be here. Leave now, and I can forgive your ignorance and offense. Guret, Peter, and Prague all looked at Chun Zhao. It was their first time seeing a monster that could speak. Chun Zhao's nervousness disappeared, replaced by a smile. You're the unusual god that's been sealed here? Since you know I'm a god, you still dare to come here? Do you not want to live? I wasn't sure at first, but now I'm completely sure. Chun Zhao grinned. You want to sink, right? Leave, or else you'll be buried in the deep sea forever, just like the humans who used to live here. They'll all die here. The flesh on the face kept wriggling, giving off a terrifying feeling. Even if you sink into the sea, you can't stop me, Chun Zhao said. I know what's hidden in the depths. You want the Pot Belly family's treasure, right? I can give it to you. Leave now. Guret and the others stared at Chun Zhao in disbelief. Had the monster been scared by Chun Zhao, he actually took the initiative to hand over the treasures. Your children attacked me and destroyed my ship, Chun Zhao said matter-of-factly. You made me suffer heavy losses. Why should I let you go? I don't just want the treasure. I want more. That's right. Then I'll destroy the treasure. I'll make it so that you'll never be able to obtain it, the abnormal god threatened angrily. If I'm missing even a single cent, I'll let you suffer in hellfire for eternity. You'll have your flesh and blood sliced apart. Furthermore, your heart is hidden in the depths of this place. I've killed otherworldly gods before, and you're not the first. I'm very experienced, and I know how to kill you. At this moment, everyone felt that this so-called otherworldling god was not scary at all. The truly terrifying one was this man. This so-called god was actually afraid of Chun Zhao. Faced with Chun Zhao's threat, it actually didn't know what to do. I've already given you all the treasures. What else do you want? I said I want more, Chun Zhao said. What exactly do you want? Accept my dominance. Don't even think about it. I won't accept the dominance of a mere human, ever. Negotiation is over. Scram. Just wait for your heart to be crushed. Your core, your will, and your soul will all be destroyed by me. The ground started shaking violently. Guret, Peter, and Prague couldn't stand steadily. But Chen Zhao was unmoved. He looked at the twisted face calmly. If you could break free, you would have done so long ago. You wouldn't have waited until now. Chen Zhao now completely understood the truth about Nanchi Island. Nanchi Island's original form was that of the otherworldly god. However, the otherworldly god's body was covered by a thick layer of rock. This was its true seal. Back then, the Navy's attack hadn't really undone its seal. It had just cracked the rock layer, causing its power to seep out through the cracks. As long as Nanchi Island remained, as long as the rock formations of Nanchi Island remained, he would never be able to escape. Chen Zhao's previous impatience was because he could feel that Nanchi Island was sinking. If they couldn't find the treasure before it sank, Guret wouldn't be able to continue leading the way. But this otherworldly god had run out of its own accord and appeared before Chen Zhao. This confirmed one thing. If it was only for the treasure, the otherworldly god wouldn't have needed to appear before him at all. It had only appeared because it was afraid. Afraid that Chen Zhao would find its core. Its heart was in the depths of this base. It should be with the treasure. It wasn't easy for me to escape from that place. I will not be controlled by anyone again. Absolutely not. The unusual god threatened. I may not be able to kill you, but I might not be able to kill you, but I can kill your companions. The surrounding ground, walls, and ceilings started collapsing and sinking. Guret's expression became extremely ugly. The otherworldly god's threat was meaningless to Chen Zhao. God, your threat is useless to him. If I die, he won't eat my share. He'll be happy for you to kill me. Guret said helplessly. What about the two humans? They're just unimportant people. I don't think he'll give up his goal for them. The otherworldly god was speechless too. Why was this guy so difficult to deal with? Must he be so ruthless? Don't make it sound so bad. I don't plan on killing you. Chen Zhao shrugged. I just want to control you and dominate you. I can pledge my loyalty to you, but I won't accept being controlled by you. Prague, Peter, and Guret all looked at him in disbelief. A god was actually pledging loyalty to Chen Zhao? Chen Zhao shook his head. I know you, otherworldly god. Oaths are meaningless to you. It's the same for me. I only believe in things that I can control. Even Guret and the other two felt that Chen Zhao's request was too much. Of course, the three of them didn't have any stance right now. After all, their lives were in Chen Zhao's hands. I accept your domination, but not forever. I'll only accept 100 years of servitude, the otherworldly god said. Anyway, 100 years is long enough for you humans. Chen Zhao thought about it. Indeed, he would probably die of old age in 100 years. Fine, 100 years, Chen Zhao said. But can you move? Chapter 1276. Chen Zhao thought about it and realized that it made sense. If the otherworldly god could move, he would have run long ago. He wouldn't be trapped here. What do you mean by moving a little? The mountain pressing down on me is too heavy. If you can help me reduce it, I can move faster. Chen Zhao wouldn't fall for it. What if it ran away after he reduced its burden? It was fine like this. Move, Chen Zhao ordered. The otherworldly god was very unwilling, but it had no other choice now. If it didn't submit to Chen Zhao definitely wouldn't let it go. But to it, 100 years wasn't unacceptable. To humans, 100 years was a lifetime, but to it, it wasn't too long. Under the otherworldly god's lead, Chen Zhao, Guret, Peter, and Prague finally arrived at a huge treasury. There were many boxes inside. Some of them looked very old. However, many had been soaked in seawater and were seriously damaged. But the most eye-catching thing was that there was a huge ball of flesh hanging in the middle of the treasury. The ball kept bouncing up and down and glowed weakly. Chen Zhao opened a box. There should have been some paper-based collections in the box. But now, there were only picture frames and some scraps. Chen Zhao's heart ached. This was all money. There might even be some famous artists' work. Chen Zhao walked up to the ball. It had a diameter of more than 40 meters. It was very huge. Chun Zhao placed his palm on it. A human face immediately appeared on it. Human, I've already submitted to you. Please don't hurt me. Huh? Who would believe a verbal submission? Humans didn't believe in oaths, and neither did Chun Zhao. The dark lava started seeping into the otherworldly god's heart. Back then, the source of the fallen had been corroded by the dark serum. But there hadn't been a lot. It could only cause some damage to the source of the fallen, but couldn't control it. It was different now. Chun Zhao's dark serum had turned into dark lava, and the amount had increased by 100 times. It wasn't difficult to corrode the otherworldly god's heart. Wait, the otherworldly god resisted with all its might. Swear on your magic that you'll return my freedom in 100 years. I swear on my magic that I'll return your freedom in 100 years. Oh, what's your name? Sardin's Starry Shadow. The darkness in this area is your territory, right? That's right. To be honest, if Sardin wasn't sealed, he didn't know if he could beat him. Such a large domain was tens of thousands of times larger than his own small world. Of course, the size of the domain did not represent the strength of the user, but to a certain extent, it did have an impact. However, Chun Zhao had predicted the outcome. If the two of them really fought, neither of them should be able to do anything to the other. If he used all his trump cards, he might even have a chance to defeat Sardin. What's your domain skill? Chun Zhao asked curiously. Although Guret, Peter, and Prague didn't understand what they were talking about, they felt that it was very impressive. Evernight, Zayden replied. What's the effect? Just create a curtain of night? Chun Zhao was speechless. If it was just creating a dark space, what was the point? Could it be that in a battle of the same level, he would have to rely on darkness to win? No, it's vision deprivation. All enemies who enter my domain will be deprived of their vision. Chun Zhao thought about it. If that was the case, it would indeed be troublesome. Although it wasn't a direct attack, if one's vision was deprived, it would indeed be troublesome for people who weren't familiar with absolute darkness. Even Chun Zhao wasn't confident that he could defeat Sardin without his vision. Then why didn't you use it before? I'm sealed here. How do you think I should use it? Chun Zhao was still somewhat glad, even if he didn't win gloriously. Starting from Sardin's heart, Chun Zhao's dark lava fused into every corner of Sardin's body. At the same time, Chun Zhao could sense Sardin's real body. Sardin's real body was extremely huge, even larger than the mountain they were on. However, his body was completely covered by rocks. His lower body had many tentacles that were connected to the seabed. Looking at the whole picture, Sardin's body was more like a multi-legged bug. Then Chun Zhao and Guret started to sort out the collections of the big-bellied families. The original 4 tons of gold had been reduced by the seawater, so it was estimated to be around 200 kilograms. This was unavoidable. After all, they'd been soaked in seawater for more than 3 years, and the seawater was extremely corrosive. Secondly, there were a large number of collections. Some paper and cloth collections had been completely destroyed by the seawater. However, there were also some metal collections, large numbers of gold and silver coins, porcelain utensils, and many gems. Suddenly, Chun Zhao found a golden all among the many collections. It was very beautiful and hadn't been corroded by the seawater. The golden awl was about 40 centimeters long and weighed about 500 grams. There was a Buddha carved on the handle of the awl. The golden awl looked like a Buddhist ritual implement, but from its shape, it didn't look like a Chinese Zen or a Tibetan Tantra. It looked more like an Indian ritual implement. I want this, Chun Zhao said. Guret looked at the golden awl in Chun Zhao's hand and nodded. Chun Zhao was already very trustworthy to keep his promise and share the treasures with her. Now that Chun Zhao only wanted a golden awl, she wouldn't have any objections. Mr. Chun, how do we split the rest of the treasures? Do we do it after sorting out, or do we split it now? Chun Zhao didn't know what was valuable and what wasn't. Chun Zhao had suffered the same loss before. This time, Chun Zhao decided to find someone familiar. We'll bring the things to Hawaii. You find someone with authority, and I'll find someone too. Then we'll discuss and decide whether to split the treasures or just split the money. What do you think? Okay. Guret nodded. This was the fairest way. At least in the end, neither side would have any complaints. Guret could hear Chun Zhao's sincerity. Chun Zhao didn't want to make a one-time deal. Although Guret didn't put in much effort this time, Chun Zhao wasn't worried. Guret didn't do much this time, but without her, he definitely wouldn't have gotten so much wealth. If Guret had other good deals in the future, she could definitely work with him again. So, Chun Zhao hoped that both sides would part on good terms. If neither side was satisfied in the distribution, it would be difficult to work with them again. Chun Zhao reached out and grabbed everything. Everything disappeared. The three were shocked by Chun Zhao's move, but thinking about Chun Zhao's identity, it wasn't surprising. Everyone went to the shore again. Looking at the vast ocean, Guret looked at Chun Zhao. How do we go back? Can you bring us back? Chun Zhao looked at the shore. Amon. Amon suddenly rushed to the shore, giving everyone a fright. Chapter 1277. Prague, Peter, and Guret experienced riding on the wind for the first time. They felt that the huge beast under their feet was Poseidon's mount. Only Poseidon had the right to ride such a huge beast. West, remember that I told you last time that I went out to sea for treasure? Chun Zhao said, find some art experts and relic experts and bring them to Hawaii. Yes, we found it. Now we need to appraise it and estimate its value. Chun Zhao and West had discussed this before. They would use $200 million as an example. Using $200 million as an example, they would have to pay at least $25 in fees. Of course, this would be done in the name of the association. The association could get around 15% of the money, which meant that the actual fee to be paid was around 10%. This was much lower than the fees of money laundering organizations. It was also within Chun Zhao's acceptable range. However, the income this time shouldn't be that much. Chun Zhao and Guret had both estimated their income this time. The value of the treasure shouldn't be more than $400 million. Among them, gold was the easiest to sell, while art and collectibles would be relatively cheaper. This time, they had to sell all of them. Neither Chun Zhao nor Guret could sell them one by one. If they were put up for auction one by one, they could increase their value. It might even reach $500 to $600 million. However, Chun Zhao and Guret didn't have the time to do that, so they would only sell for half of the actual market price. Chun Zhao couldn't say whether he was happy or unhappy. He was happy to find the treasure, but the income wasn't as big as he'd imagined. This made him slightly disappointed. Plus the loss of the yacht. Chun Zhao had only bought Feilai for $12 million. However, the actual cost of the yacht was at least $40 million. The market price would definitely reach $60 million. This meant that Chun Zhao's actual income, after deducting the loss this time, was less than $100 million. Chun Zhao sat on Amon's head, holding the golden awl. In Buddhism, the guardian Vajra wielded a Vajra awl or a Vajra axe. It could shoot out thunderbolts and release monstrous karmic fire. Chun Zhao used magic to test it. There was nothing special about the awl. When Chun Zhao saw the awl, his instincts told him that there was something special about it. However, after trying a few times, he didn't find anything special about the awl. Chun Zhao was somewhat disappointed. He put the awl away. By this time, Amon had already left the vicinity of Nanchi Island, and the sky was already bright. Amon's speed was very fast, exceeding 200 nautical miles per hour. What did that mean? This was basically the speed of an express train. However, the sea was stormy and rough, so Guret, Peter, and Prague weren't very comfortable. The novelty of the beginning was gone, and all that was left was boredom and pain. Thankfully, Chun Zhao could always take out food and water. At least they didn't have to starve. The next morning, everyone arrived at the waters of the Hawaiian Islands. However, the four of them pretended to be drowned in a shipwreck and were rescued by a nearby ship. They arrived in Hawaii on the same day. Peter, I hope the money you promised can be transferred to my account as soon as possible. If I don't get the money before I return to Los Angeles, I'll get it from you personally. Do you understand? Of course. I understand. You don't want to pay what you owe? Pete didn't think he was qualified. Not to mention, it was only $2 million. He could afford it. He had no idea how he could survive if he offended Chun Zhao for $2 million. Prague also left, but she didn't take the same flight as Peter. She was disappointed in Pete during this trip. Chen Zhao stayed in Guret's pirate hotel. The next day, West arrived. At the same time, he brought 2 experts with him. From West's introduction, Chen Zhao knew that they were appraisal experts working for a large auction company. They were experts, not scholars. They wouldn't ask about the origin of the appraised item, nor would they say that the item should be handed over to the country. Of course, if possible, they would persuade the person to hand the item over to their company for auction or sell it directly to their company. Guret's specialist had also arrived. To everyone's surprise, Guret's specialist knew Chen Zhao's 2 specialists. They were also in the same field, but they belonged to different companies. They probably communicated with each other before. Guret led everyone to the warehouse, where Chen Zhao and Guret's harvest was placed. Apart from the gold, Guret and Chen Zhao had already split the gold in half. The rest were the big-bellied family's collection. There were more than 1,000 of them, so appraising their origin and value would be very tedious work. Some were intact, while others were severely damaged or had been corroded by seawater. For Chen Zhao and Guret, this was a huge loss. The value of a complete collection and a damaged one were not the same. Rare and non-rare items had different values. In this collection, there was no lack of priceless treasures. However, most of them were only worth a few thousand or tens of thousands of dollars. Perhaps 1 or 2 items weren't worth much, but when put together, the total value was still very high. Another type was unappraised, which meant that their origin and age couldn't be appraised. Chen Zhao and Guret were specially picked out and split the loot evenly between them. The 3 experts appraised the items for 5 days. It wasn't like the 3 experts appraised the items together. Chen Zhao and Guret's experts appraised separately. They would only appraise the items with different prices at the same time to confirm the value. In the end, they got a total value of $235 million. With an actual price, it was easier to distribute. Chen Zhao and Guret started to distribute the items. Then, under West's control, the items were all sold to the auction company that the 2 experts worked for. With the auction company's participation, the money was easier to handle. However, the money couldn't be seen yet. West still had to find a professional finance company to handle it. Chen Zhao didn't know how to do it, so he didn't know how to do it. Anyway, he just had to sit and collect the money. What made him happy was that the income this time wasn't too different from his expectations. Chen Zhao had expected to earn $200 million. Now, he'd sold the items for $120 million. Together with the 2 tons of gold, it was almost $200 million. After deducting the middleman's fees, there was at least $150 million. Of course, Chen Zhao had to include the yacht that he'd lost. Chapter 1278. Chen, when are you coming back? Something happened at home. What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? Or was Jerlin sick? No, it was the day before yesterday, when I took the children to our new home because I rented a yacht. At that time, when we were at sea, we found a fishing boat fishing for sharks outside our beach, so I asked them to stop fishing for sharks. In the end, they used water cannons to hit our yacht, and Little Nine secretly followed them. At night, I heard that Little Nine capsized their fishing boat and killed a man, but among the survivors, someone took a photo, and now the news media is reporting this news, and they even took photos to prove it. Xiao Zhou is too reckless, Chen Zhao said casually. He had to give Little Nine a reward later. Good job. How dare they use water cannons to attack Fei Lai in their own territory? How dare they attack her with water cannons? If he could find those people, Chen Zhao would definitely throw them all into the furnace of hell and burn them clean. I'll go back tomorrow. Oh, Fei Lai, your Fei Lai accidentally went silent. Chen Zhao really didn't want to talk about this. After all, the boat was named after Fei Lai. Are you okay? I'm fine. That's good. After we go back, we'll buy a bigger boat and name it after you, Chen Zhao said. Fei Lai didn't mind. She just wanted Chen Zhao to be safe. A woman with a child would always want her family to be safe and sound. Chen Zhao had wanted to go back to Los Angeles after today's matter. However, West hadn't booked a plane ticket today. The earliest he could get was a flight ticket for tomorrow. Of course, Chen Zhao could fly back, but that would be too ostentatious. Plus, Los Angeles wasn't close. Shenzhou didn't want to fly that far. On the other side, Guirette's gains weren't less than Shenzhou's, so she treated Shenzhou and West warmly. Of course, Guirette's losses weren't less than Shenzhou's. After all, she hadn't just lost a pirate ship. She'd also lost dozens of subordinates. The family compensation for these subordinates wasn't a small amount. Pirates didn't need compensation. In this day and age, anyone who carried a gun had compensation. Sunshine, beaches, and tourists from all over the world. This was the specialty of Hawaii Island. As the world's most famous leisure resort island, Hawaii Island had all the entertainment projects one could imagine. Shenzhou arrived at the beach. There were tourists everywhere. Also, the sea breeze here was a little warm. The native population of Hawaii was less than 1 million, but it received tens of millions of tourists every year. Its annual GDP was close to 60 billion US dollars. One could imagine how many tourists there were. This was Chun Zhao's second time coming to Hawaii, but he hadn't really gone there for fun either time. He'd always come to Hawaii as a transit stop. Today, he went out mainly to feel the atmosphere of Hawaii. As the most famous tourist island in the world, what was different about it from other places? Chun Zhao sat beside the stone, feeling a bit bored. Wes had wanted to come out and play with Chun Zhao. However, Chun Zhao rejected him. If it were a woman, Chun Zhao would be more than happy to go. Unfortunately, Wes was a man. Just then, a volleyball hit Chun Zhao's head. Chun Zhao turned around and saw two beauties in bikinis. One was fair-skinned and looked a bit shy. The other had healthy, wheat-colored skin. She was slightly tall, but rather voluptuous. "Sorry, uncle. Are you okay?" "Uncle?" Chun Zhao's mouth twitched. They seemed to be only a few years younger than him. Why did they call him uncle? Did he look that old? It seemed that he needed to take care of himself. Chun Zhao touched his hair and shook his head. Watching two girls in bikinis play beach volleyball was quite a pleasant thing to watch. After a while, the two girls stopped. The tall girl said a few words to the fair-skinned girl and then left. After a while, the tall girl returned. She brought 2 bottles of drinks to Chun Zhao and handed one to him. "Uncle, are you here for vacation?" "No." "Then are you here for work?" "Sort of." "No wonder you're so lonely here." The tall girl was rather cheerful and friendly. "I'm Jamie's, and she's Dorinko. Do you want to play beach volleyball with us?" "Me? I've never played before." "It's okay. We're normal," Jamie said. "If you can beat us, $10 per ball." "How about that?" Of course, if you lose, it's still $10 per ball." "Fine." Chun Zhao went to the beach. It was good to win a few dozen dollars. The girl was clearly trying to scam him out of his money. Why should he be merciful? But 10 minutes later, Chun Zhao deeply understood what the phrase "dreams are beautiful, but reality is cruel" meant. Chun Zhao pounced. The ball touched the net, but it hit the net. Every time the ball was about to hit the ground, Chun Zhao could catch it, but he couldn't control his strength at all. Volleyball was a very technical sport. It was even more technical than soccer and basketball. You couldn't just play it as long as you could catch the ball. Chun Zhao couldn't even see the ball clearly when he kicked. After 10 minutes, Chun Zhao had already lost more than 10 balls. No one liked to keep losing. Chun Zhao was depressed. "Let's stop. It's boring." Chun Zhao took out $200 from his wallet and patted his jacket on the beach. "Don't go. Let's play again." Chun Zhao rolled his eyes and left dejectedly. "Jamie's, you can't be like this. You're scamming money again." "Scamming money? I didn't. I earned it with my own abilities," Jamie's said proudly. "You clearly used magic." Just then, both of them received a message on their phones. "Boss wants us to meet up." The two went to an office building and pressed the elevator button for the 13th floor. When the two of them arrived, everyone in the office was already there. "Boss, we're here. Also, this is an office. Can you consider us non-smokers?" Kingsley was smoking by the window. Hearing Jamie's words, he put the cigarette out on his tongue. "Okay, everyone's here. Let's get to the main topic. The North American Psychic Competition is starting. It's held in Los Angeles. Get ready. We're going there tomorrow." Chapter 1279. Among the 4 ancient civilizations, only China still had a relatively complete heritage. That was why China had always been a superpower, followed by Europe. Although the Middle Ages in Europe were the Dark Ages for most people, it was also the Dark Ages that created Europe's alternative civilization. Then there was Africa. Most of the time, Africa gave people the impression that it was poor and backward. Moreover, there were very few spiritualists in Africa. Most of them were wizards supported by tribes. However, once a spiritualist came out of Africa, they were extremely powerful. Then there was Africa's Egypt. Although the ancient Egyptian civilization had been cut off, there were still many families that continued their ancient heritage. There were also many powerful spiritualists in those families. Then there was South America. There were many spiritualists in South America, but their strength varied. They were mainly divided into druids and shamans, as well as a small number of ancient Inca civilization inheritances. North America was recognized as the weakest region in the supernatural world. For example, the supernatural organization of the past. Such a weak organization could actually become an official supernatural organization. There were even organizations that were weaker than the supernatural organization. Some organizations even had a few awakened spiritualists who dared to form their own faction. Thus, Gimli formed his own team and called it the Guard. They had some connections with the Hawaii state government and were the only supernatural organization in Hawaii. Gimli led the Guard and helped the Hawaii state government solve many problems. Now, there were 8 people in the Guard, including Gimli. Apart from solving supernatural incidents in Hawaii, the Guard's daily tasks were to earn extra money and learn from other organizations outside of Hawaii. Ever since the Guard was established, it had interacted with many supernatural organizations around the world. Organizations in China, Japan, Europe, and Africa had all interacted with the Guard. Of course, it was more like learning than communication. Generally speaking, when 2 supernatural organizations communicated, they would exchange a few minor spells for each other to express their friendship. This made the Guard think that the North American Guard could look down on everyone. They even looked down on the supernatural organizations in North America. They felt that only organizations outside of North America were qualified to communicate with them. Even the Witch Society and the Sorcerer Society, which were at the peak of their power, only thought that the other party had more people. After the Witch Society and the Sorcerer Society were destroyed last year, their mentality was even more obvious. The North American Psychic Contest was held once every 3 years. So far, it had been held 8 times, and the Guards had basically participated in every single contest. In the last 3 tournaments, the Guards had always been the champions. The champions of the last competition were Jamies and Dorinko. At that time, they were 16 and 18 years old respectively, but their skills amazed everyone. Even the Witch Society had extended an olive branch to them, hoping that they could join the Witch Society. Half of the Guards didn't want to go, and the other half wanted to go to Los Angeles. Boss, must we go? Although the North American Psychic Contest is a little underwhelming, this year's prize is very good. It's the skeleton of a powerful, magical creature. If we can win the championship, then we can make the mana potion. This year's competition is a little different, so all of us have to participate. Jean Lee said, well, go and get ready. I've booked tickets for tomorrow. Gurette sent Chun Zhao and Wes to the airport. As the owner of this place, Gurette had been taking care of Chun Zhao and Wes for the past few days. Although her people had suffered heavy casualties this time, Gurette was still very satisfied with the cooperation. Because of Chun Zhao's integrity, he didn't break the agreement because of violence. Moreover, both sides had done their best in what they were supposed to do. As for the fact that her people had been killed for provoking Chun Zhao, Gurette had long forgotten about it. She had warned them time and time again, but they just wouldn't listen. Who could stop a group of people that wanted to die? Chun, be careful. We'll reach Los Angeles after we get off the plane. I don't know where I need to be careful. Okay, next time, bring your family to Hawaii. Remember to stay in my hotel. What about me? Of course, you're welcome too, Mr. West. Okay, we're boarding now. Bye. Bye. Chun Zhao waved at West. When they reached the departure lounge, West said, President, the North American Light Society invited us to participate in the North American Psychic Conference. Should we go? What's the North American Light Society? The Society of Light is also an international organization, and it has some connections with the Supernatural International Association. They could be considered competitors. There's a division in Korea called the Oriental Society of Light, and a division in Europe called the European Society of Light. There's also the North American Society of Light. The Society of Light isn't divided by countries, but by regions. Their principles are similar to the Supernatural International Association, and they're all responsible for maintaining the peace of the supernatural in the region. However, they're different from the Supernatural International Association's conservative nature. Since we're competitors, why did they invite us? It's probably to suppress and humiliate us. We're a division of the supernatural organization. The North American Light Society has always been hostile toward us, West said. Actually, we've participated twice. The first time was because we broke the rules, and the second time we were last. Then we won't go, Chen Zhao said calmly. Since they're trying to humiliate us, why should we join them? Plus, they're just a bunch of clowns. What's there to compete with? If it's a supernatural organization, we can consider interacting with them. West had wanted to go because the supernatural organization wasn't the same as it had been in the past. With the strength of the North American supernatural world, West was confident that they could win the competition. But hearing Chen Zhao's words, he felt that it made sense. They couldn't say that they were super powerful now, but they were at least close. Especially Chen Zhao. He was the supernatural organization's biggest face. It wouldn't be right for him to participate in such a low-level competition. Actually, Chen Zhao had considered this before this trip. After returning from the treasure hunt, he wouldn't go far. Fei Lai's belly was getting bigger. He should stay by her side and take care of her instead of letting himself go everywhere. His second child would be born in 3 months. When Jerlin was born, he hadn't been able to see her. This time, he had to see his child born no matter what. Of course, he hoped that his second child would be a daughter. Chen Zhao wondered if he should ask the handsome guy for a wishing ring and wish that his second child would be a daughter. Chapter 1280. Yes, President. Do you want me to suppress this? West was confused. He heard about it. He'd also seen the photo and recognized that the attacking Hydra was from Chen Zhao's family. However, the location wouldn't make people think of Chen Zhao. It was also too late to suppress it now, because it was already too big. West felt that there was no need to care about it anymore. No, I wanted to find the people on the fishing boat when it happened and cast a blind curse on all of them. Why? West's face darkened. What was the point of this prank? Did Chen Zhao have a grudge against those people? If a blind curse was used on a spiritualist, they would only be blind for 10 minutes at most. But if it was used on a regular person without magic, they would be blind for at least 10 days. They used a water cannon on Fei Lai, Chen Zhao said. That's why Xiao Jiu attacked them. If you don't want to, forget it. I'll do it myself. I'll do it, West said hurriedly. It was just a few blind curses. Hearing Chen Zhao's explanation, it meant that they deserved it. But if Chen Zhao did it, it wouldn't be as simple as a blind curse. A blind curse was a regular curse. It could cause temporary trouble, but it wouldn't cause any actual damage. But if Chen Zhao did it, who knew if they could stay intact? Oh, remember to add a panic curse. Suddenly, Chen Zhao felt his neck being strangled. Then, a hard muzzle was pressed against his temple. A man who was 7 meters tall and had a thick beard was strangling Chen Zhao's neck and pointing the muzzle at his head. He has a gun. What is he doing? In an instant, the entire departure lounge was in chaos. Everyone was retreating in a panic. Sir, what are you doing? West was also dumbfounded. Hostage? Kidnapping Chen Zhao. I want to see my daughter, the man roared. I want to see her now. Chen Zhao could feel that the man was also panicking. The arm around Chen Zhao's neck also didn't have any strength. Any ordinary person would probably be able to break free, let alone Chen Zhao. Where's your daughter? Beside that bitch. I don't care. I want my daughter. Bring my daughter here, or I'll kill him. By then, the airport security had also arrived. They formed a circle around the two. Sir, can you communicate properly? Someone is going to get hurt, West said. He wasn't worried about Chun Zhao's safety at all. On the contrary, he was worried about the safety of this father who loved his daughter to the point of madness. At this moment, a few people emerged from the crowd. "Yo, isn't this Uncle?" Chun Zhao glanced at Jamie's, then turned his head away without saying anything. "Have you been kidnapped? Do you need my help?" "Leave. I don't want to see you." "Do you want me to save you because you lost $200 to me yesterday?" Gimli turned his head and asked, "Do you know him?" "We know each other." "Boss, are you going to make a move?" "None of you are suitable to fight." "Let me do it." Suddenly, Chun Zhao felt a wave of magic. Chun Zhao looked up at Gimli. He saw that Gimli's fingers were moving subtly. Then, Chun Zhao heard rapid breathing from the man holding Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao realized that the man's clothes were being tightened. Huh? Chun Zhao realized that his pants were being tightened too. Huh? What kind of magic is this? It can shrink clothes and pants? The man's breathing became difficult. Then, he fell to the ground, his face bright red. Everyone thought that the hostage had suddenly suffered a heart attack or something. West walked up. "President, did you do it?" Chun Zhao shook his head. "Not me. It's that guy over there." Just then, the security came up to ask about the situation. Chun Zhao was fine. He didn't plan to pursue the matter. However, he was suspicious about the security of American airports. To be able to bring a gun into the departure lounge, either the man was really powerful or the airport security was too incompetent. If he wasn't in a hurry, Chun Zhao really wanted to find a lawyer to mess with Hawaiian Airlines. "Uncle, are you okay?" Jamie's walked up and asked, but her tone sounded like she was asking for credit. "I'm fine. My plane is about to arrive." "Bye." "How rude. You didn't even say thank you." Jamie's pouted. "They don't know that we did it," Dorinko said. Chun Zhao and West boarded the plane. Not long after they sat down, they saw Jamie's and the others enter the first-class cabin. "Hey, Uncle, what a coincidence. You're in first class, too." Chun Zhao put a facial mask on his face and closed his eyes to rest. Chun Zhao didn't want to talk to others, especially someone who called him Uncle. "Uncle, this brand of facial mask can only replenish water. If you want anti-aging, you should change to another brand. I recommend you a brand." Chun Zhao finally couldn't help but yell, "I'm not old. I just want to replenish water." The passengers in the first-class cabin couldn't help but turn to look at Chun Zhao. Even the air stewardess looked at Chun Zhao. Wes glanced at Chun Zhao and then turned his head silently. This was probably Chun Zhao's first time in such a difficult situation since coming to America. "Miss, I want to rest. Can you not let others disturb me?" Chun Zhao could only call the air stewardess. "Jamie's, stop messing around," Kim said in a low voice. "We're on a plane, after all." "Uncle, do you want to give me your number? I can teach you some skincare techniques." Jamie's didn't have any self-awareness at all. She was completely immersed in her own world. "Oh, Uncle, are you emotionally unstable because you were threatened?" "It's okay, it's all in the past. But I'm so envious of you. You have the chance to be threatened. No one has ever dared to threaten me." "Miss, are there any seats in first class? I want to descend." "I'm sorry, sir, but they're all full." "Then can you let me experience the comfort of first class?" "It's my first time in first class. I hope to have the comfort that first class should have." "Uncle, it's also your first time in first class." "Miss, can you please stop harassing this gentleman?" The air stewardess could only turn her head to look at Jamie's. "I'm harassing him? When did I harass him?" "Uncle, tell her if I'm harassing you, that you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.